It was a mixed bag in terms of wins and losses last week for IPFW athletics. Men's basketball, women's tennis, men's volleyball. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll take a quick review of what happened, and we're going to get into a discussion on a brand new substance abuse policy that just took effect here at IPFW. Our show's called Mastodon Spotlight, and it's coming up next.
I can listen.
I can cook.
Good. I can coach.
Kids with something to do are less likely to do drugs.
I can drive.
I can paint.
I can dance.
A little of your time can make a lifetime of difference.
I can read.
I can help.
You can help. Call toll-free 1-877-KIDS-313 to find out about community drug prevention programs.
I can keep a kid off drugs.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Well, as I said a moment ago, a mixed bag in terms of wins and losses. Some teams won their game, some teams lost, some had in between. Let's take a quick recap, starting with women's tennis. Last Saturday, Coach Eric Burns' squad was supposed to play Akron University up in Warsaw. Unfortunately, inclement weather postponed that match. It'll be replayed at a later date. But on Sunday, they did travel to Toledo to take on the Toledo Rockets of the Mid-American Conference. Played tough, but they fell 4-3. The three winners all in singles for the women's team: Jill Carey at number 3 singles, Julie Downs at number 5, and Beth Miller at number 6. Good effort by the women, just came up short 4-3. Now, let's turn to men's basketball. Coach Doug Knoll's team was on the road last week for a pair of games. On Wednesday night, they were down in Shreveport, Louisiana, taking on the Centenary Gents, newest member of the Mid-Con. And they had a good lead, 30-22 at halftime, but lost it in the second half. As Centenary hit 66% of their shots from the field, converted 15 of 18 free throw opportunities, and outscored IPFW 54-31 in the second half, en route to a 76-61 win. IPFW had 3 players scoring double figures. Brandon Jennings had 16 points, David Simon 14 points and 11 rebounds, and Tyler Clevenger 10 points to lead IPFW scoring. Then on Saturday, the team traveled over to Chicago to take on the Loyola Ramblers of the Horizon League, team that's fighting for their league lead. And they had the lead early on, 14-9, 7.5 minutes in, but Loyola ran off 10 points in a row, took the lead for good, stretched it to 9 at halftime, and stretched it even further as they went on to defeat IPFW 86-64. And just one of those things, a couple of big runs in the second half, cemented the lead, increased it. And IPFW again had 4 players in double figures. D'Angelo Woodall, 14 points, Terry Collins, 12 points, David Simon and Rick Wyan, 11 points apiece. IPFW's record now is 6 wins and 20 losses. They're going to be home. We'll talk about that later in the program this week. Now on to men's volleyball. 2 big home matches last week. On Friday night, they took on the University of Findlay in an MIVA match, and it was a rough go. They lost the first set 30-28, came back, won the next 3 sets 32-30, 30-23, 30-21. It was their 5th straight win. Matt Zbyszewski had 19 kills to lead the offensive attack. Javier Garcia, the transfer, had 15 kills, Angel Ruiz 14, and Angel Ruiz Rivera 13. Setter Dennis Santiago had 61 assists. Now, Saturday night, in a match we broadcast here on College 56 Sports, it was number 13 IPFW playing host to number 9 Penn State. And this time the results weren't as good. Penn State won the match in 4 sets, 30-19, 23-30, 31-29, and 30-23. Jeff Patak had 19 kills, Matt Zbyszewski had 14, Dennis Santiago had 45 assists and 6 digs. They split the first 2 sets. It was back and forth in the 3rd set. Penn State won out and then won the 4th going away. The 5-match winning streak is over. They've fallen out of 5-2. And they're going to be home again this weekend. We'll talk about that later. Finally, women's basketball closed out the home portion of their season last Wednesday and Thursday night. A couple of exciting games. On Wednesday night, they went into overtime and knocked off Southeast Missouri State from the Ohio Valley Conference 90-87. Varia Bibbs had 19 points, Amy Geralds and Maggie Bruning 16 apiece, and Courtney Nicely 14. and the team shot 51% of the floor, hit 31 of 42 free throws. Again, they won 90-87 in overtime. Less than 24 hours later, they came back. Senior night, fell behind 14-0 in the first 4 minutes, 21-4 a little bit later on, but they rallied to defeat Texas Pan American 64-57. Courtney Nicely, 16 points. Maggie Bruning just missed a triple-double, 11 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. Varia Bibbs, 10 points. Ashley Elmore, 10 points. It was the Lady Mastodons' 6th win in their last 7 tries. They're now 9-16 overall, and they finish up with 3 games on the road. That's what took place last week here at IPFW. Time for a break. When we come back, we're going to have several special guests. We're going to talk about a brand new substance abuse policy that was just enacted back on February 3rd. And we'll begin our discussion on that topic when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
It is more than a trial by fire. It is a rite of passage, a challenge to join the elite. And if you succeed, if you can master your fear, outsmart your enemy, and never yield even to yourself, you will be changed forever. The few, the proud, the Marines.
I helped turn my child's public school into one with extended hours, 6 days a week year-round, filled with loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One with medical and dental services right there. A school where students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. Turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. It's not often that we take extra time to talk about a particular program here on Mastodon Spotlight, but thanks to a number of people, I think this week and next week is going to be an exception. And what we're going to do is spend the rest of this week's program and a good portion of next week's program talking about the new substance abuse policy that was recently enacted here at IPFW. We're going to have several guests on during the course of this discussion, and we got an illustrious crew here, which I want to have them introduce themselves, rather, if I get my tongue untied in a moment. We're going to have some student athletes. We're going to have some coaches, and we hope to have, if things work out, Athletic Director Mark Pope as well before this is all said and done. But let me have each of our lovely guests here today introduce themselves, starting to my immediate right.
Dan Fox, Head Athletic Trainer here at IPFW.
Judy Tillepaw, IPFW Wellness Fitness Coordinator.
I'm Chris Kusnar. I'm the Chair of the Substance Abuse Council and Associate Faculty in the Human Service Department.
And I'm Elliot Blumenthal, the Faculty Athletic Representative and Professor in Biology.
Thank you all for coming today. Judy, we'll start with you because my understanding, you and Moses Dupre, our compliance coordinator, were the linchpins, so to speak, to get this process, and it's been a long process, going and get it developed. Why don't you take it from here and talk about the evolution of this policy?
Okay. Yes, Moses and I got together about 1.5 years ago and realized that what substance abuse policy and program we had was outdated, and none of it was being implemented. So we had conversations with Athletic Director Mark Pope, and he charged us to form a task force committee to look at the whole topic. And so we formed a task force committee. The people that are here were on the committee, plus others. So we sat down and had meetings and discussions and looked at it piece by piece to decide how to best reshape it to best serve our athletes.
I think it should be mentioned here that we've got 16 sports when you count men's and women's track and field in fall and winter and so forth that were eligible for NCAA Division I competition. So we're talking about hundreds of athletes here that this affects.
Oh, for sure. We have over 200 NCAA Division I athletes, and when we thought about revising this, for sure, up front, we wanted a policy that would be shaped so that would help the overall welfare and health of the student, and for sure would help them be successful in practices and competitions.
Why don't we start taking it step by step?
Okay, let's go through some of the goals. Let me share with you some of the goals. There's 7 of them, so I'll mention them one at a time. Number 1 is, with this program and policy, we want to educate athletes, coaches, staff concerning nutrition supplements, drugs, tobacco, and alcohol abuse and associated problems. Number 2, we want to encourage the athletes to talk about the use and the abuse of substances. Number 3, we want to reduce nutrition supplement, drug, alcohol, and tobacco use by student athletes. Number 4, which I know Dan Fox is highly a part of, we want to implement a drug testing procedure, that we would have to do with the student athletes. Number 5, we have a code of conduct. So part of number 5 is we want to enforce the athletic department code of conduct. And number 6, provide assessment, counseling, and referral to any student athletes that might have a substance abuse problem. We just definitely don't want to leave them out on the wing. We want to definitely assist them and help them, reshape their lives and their habits a little bit. Number 7, very important one, we want to provide support to the student athletes who would be going through rehabilitation and therapy.
That's a lot of goals.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk about the education. Point number 1, the education of the athletes, coaches, and staff. And I guess, Dan, let's bring you in on this because you have a very big say, you and your fellow trainers.
I thought we knew a lot about this when we started. When I began here 3 years ago, that was one of the things that was on my top priority list, was to bring everything to Division I standards. So we had to do our research and educate ourselves. We went out and talked to different organizations that test, like AGIS and Drug-Free Center for Drug-Free Sports and the NCAA, found out what policies or what technical things we need to do and know in order to get this to fall into place. There's a lot of organizations out there that'll come in and do it for you, but we really wanted to put our own hands into this and see what we can come up with. We talked to, or actually submitted requests from 35 different universities, Division I caliber, all the way from, D1 or D1As to D1 AAAs, everybody that we could feel comfortable with, and got back 17 policy from the different institutions. Very interesting because everybody does something different. There's a large gray area in the NCAA policy, and we wanted to try to fill those gaps. We know what they want and what's going to happen if they come in. We wanted to mimic them. As Mr. Pope always says, don't even reinvent the wheel's working. You can soup it up, but don't reinvent it. And that's kind of what we did. With the help of Judy and Chris and Elliot and myself, we did a lot of research and started this rolling and got a lot of ideas from different people, and it just kind of came to fruition, and we ended up with what we have. So
you mentioned 17 responses, and each one is a little different. Can you briefly go into?
Some institutions have a policy that if you are caught using them or tested positive for using them, you're done. There's no second or third chance. You're done. Other institutions say, well, if you get caught, we'll leave it to the discretion of the coaches, whether or not your particular coach, whether or not to punish you. Other institutions turn their back. They don't have policies set. They just state kind of what we had when I came in, is that if you do it, this is what's going to happen. It's not enforced. It's just something on paper. And unfortunately, there's too many universities like that. We need to all kind of fall into the same group and start doing things, especially with the recent incidents that have happened on the last few years with drug-related deaths, or deaths linked to ephedrine use or over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. So,
I know one of the biggest challenges that you and your staff have dealing with the student athletes is what's legal and what's not legal. And can you tell us how you get some help in determining that?
Well, we throw them up in the air and the last one hits. No. We use a lot of different resources. We use, obviously, the NCAA. We use the OIC, Olympic International Committee. We use another site called Drug Free Center for Sports. You and I had an opportunity to actually work with it yesterday. And a student or a student athlete can go on there. They don't have to give a name or anything, just a sport and what they're looking for, their question. I think our question yesterday was, is ephedrine illegal to use in the NCAA? And within 10 minutes, they had written us back via email and said, yes, ephedrine is a legal substance to use by the NCAA. And it pretty much sums it up. A lot of people think they know what this stuff is, what this stuff does, and they really don't. They need to educate themselves. This is one good way of getting education. You can go on the web, a lot of websites out there for sports nutrition. You're going to find both sides of the story. What it comes down to it is that if it's been banned, it shouldn't be used. And that's what they need to educate themselves on. When all athletes came in this fall, I had an opportunity to speak to them, and the first thing that came out of my mouth is, you will be held accountable. There is no excuse now for not knowing what's going on. The resources are too plentiful out there not to know. Your best friend is not the expert on supplements or drug use. Your mother and father have more education, but unless if they're a pharmacist or a doctor, they don't know. I just read an article this morning. General practitioners are prescribing drugs at an astounding rate that are illegal for student athletes to use. Why? They don't know the rules. So we just keep going with learning more and more. And since I last checked the website, they've added 4 new drugs or food supplements that have been banned, ephedrine being one of them. And that just came apart 2 months ago. So as things progress, you're going to see more and more things added to the list. Is not just your harder drugs, your street drugs like the heroin and marijuana and cocaine and things along those lines, but your ephedrine and your guanine and all the other food supplements that can help enhance. And that's really where the kids run into trouble. They know that using the street drugs is wrong. It's illegal by the Indiana Code of Law. But that's a concern. But these out here are the concern that we have right now, because these are the ones that aren't regulated per se as pharmaceuticals. They're food additives. They're not, the quality of them may not be checked as well as a pharmaceutical grade medicine or an additive or a supplement type of thing. So we've got to be careful, and all these have been banned.
I should stress at this time, too, that the substance abuse policy is not mandated by the NCAA. This is a voluntary program that we are doing on campus for the education process of the student athletes. It's not meant to be punitive to the athletes at all. We're simply trying to do this to make sure that we have healthy athletes here, that if there is a problem, that we can help counsel and educate them. And it is not meant to be a punitive type action, so that it's not mandated. This is why there's such variation between university to university in terms of the answers that we get. The only time the NCAA will come in is to do some spot checking for drugs, and if athletes are caught at that point in time, they will be punished by the NCAA. And we're trying to preclude this process by testing the athletes ourselves, get a head start on it, try to educate and counsel the athletes before the NCAA does come in.
To the best of your knowledge, has the NCAA conducted any of those spot checks here at IPFW in the past?
Here at IPFW? No.
I believe not.
As far as I'm aware.
We've never, Division I tournament time would only be with volleyball, and I believe they have never been tested. But I believe our proactive stance that the university is taking right now is great, because it's really going to help us in the long run. When it does come, it's not going to be a surprise, and that's the big thing. So.
Can I mention also that this policy has taken into account students self-reporting themselves, and the sanctions for that versus a person testing positive are different. So we would want to encourage any student who might be having a problem, that if they come and talk to someone, we would encourage that rather than facing a positive test result.
Can I follow that up with, have you had occasions where some student athletes have been in touch with you?
Personally, I've had student athletes ask me questions about substance use, and so I'll answer those on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it's just they want more information on something. If it's a very technical something, that's not my area of expertise. Mine is in education and prevention, so I'll refer them to Dan or Judy where they can get the real technical assistance that they might need.
Judy, let me come back to you for a minute, because you mentioned one of the points is the athletic department's code of conduct. Can we talk about that code of conduct a little bit?
Sure, that's fine. It's definitely, when you think about the code of conduct, it's violating one of those would mean potential sanctions. You know, we've got a list of them. Number one is no illegal use of any drugs, alcohol, tobacco. We make our students aware totally of all of the banned drugs as much as we can, but no illegal use of the drugs or the alcohol. Also, within the code of conduct is looking at the alcohol use. Very concerned about student-athlete alcohol use, and we asked our athletes to avoid alcohol use, before practices and competitions, and for sure, it's illegal to use alcohol. Anyone under 21 it's not to use alcohol. So, as you think about the code of conduct, very important that the athletes become aware of them and use them so that they can stay free of potential harm or potential problem that is going to affect their overall ability to practice well and to win competitions, or that it could affect their teammates. We also, within our code of conduct, we do ask the athlete to receive the education that we provide. We make it mandatory for them to receive initial school year education and then additional follow-up education at the beginning of each of the semesters. So we within the code of conduct, we make it mandatory for them to receive specific education, so they've got the best guidance.
Dan, I'm going to come back to you for a minute, because Judy's talked about the fact that they're not supposed to partake of any of these substances. Has it happened?
We'd like to say no, but we know this is a college. We know their age. We know the nature of the beast. I'm sure it has. Again, we're trying to take a proactive stance here. I think Judy, in her educational area, is going to make a difference out of all this. We can test them every day. It doesn't matter. But if we don't educate them and get them the help they need, it's worthless. It really is. And that's our goal with the past classes, with our incoming and transfer athletes, sitting down and talking with them about this kind of stuff. And nutrition and things like that only helps us. It helps them to try to get away from this. We still know what they do on weekends. I mean, let's be realistic. Are we going to be able to stop that? No, we can't get into their house and watch them all the time, but we can educate them. Chris was stating that people ask her questions. We have people come down all the time, and we go through the same process that you and I did yesterday. Is we look at the labels, we read the labels, we read the amounts, and that's with everything, even with a multivitamin. Making sure that it doesn't have anything that's been banned, or the amounts are exceeding recommended daily allowances. We know they're athletes, we know they need extra caloric intake and need to replenish minerals and vitamins and things like that. But when you take 5,000 times the daily amount, it can't be good for you. We know that it causes liver and kidney problems. So we try to get them away from that. We try to educate them. Well, if you need more creatine in your diet, then you need to eat more red meat. Bringing it up through your nutrition rather than taking a supplement that we know is illegal and we know it can cause problems. So that's the big thing. If we know that whether you're using it, we try to stop them immediately. Some of the coaches have taken stances that said, if we find out about it, you're done. I mean, plain and simple, you're done if we find out. These items just didn't happen to fall on my desk. These were found around the facility. Doesn't mean that our athletes used them. We have a general population facility. They could have been left by anybody. But we know they're in our facility because they're sitting right in front of us. And
Can you go over some of these?
sure, these two on my left are creatine. They're creatine drops. It's a liquid form of creatine. They take a couple, 3 drops before during their workouts. Creatine helps rebuild muscle tissue. It helps synthesize proteins so that the muscle tissue heals quicker. This one should be ephedrine. Ephedrine has been banned. Ephedrine is a stimulant. It makes you work a little bit harder, kind of like it's a organic upper, I guess would be the closest thing to use it. This is somebody gave me this. This is a Thermodrol, which is a dietary supplement. A lot of people out there want to lose weight. They take whatever over-the-counter stuff. This has 2 banned substances, ephedra and guarana, which have both been banned by the NCAA and the OIC as stimulants. Helps increase metabolism and also increases heart rate and risk of heart disease. Another fat burner dietary supplement, thermosin, guarana. It's an oriental drug called Wang extract, which increases heart rate. Some other things in there. Again, banned substances. This is not a banned substance per se. I mean, there's a lot of these out there. By the way, we don't endorse any of these. We're not after the manufacturers or anything. These are just supplements that you can buy over the counter. You don't need a prescription. You don't need to see your doctor or anything like that. This is stuff you can buy off the shelf. This has ginseng in it and guarana, which are both banned by the NCAA. The amount of calories and the carbohydrates, just straight nutrition off the back of the label tells you that it can't be good for you if this is all you're drinking during the day before practice. That should be enough information to tell you that you don't need to be using this stuff. When you add in the banned substances, then you know you shouldn't be using that. And that's one of the big education things. I have an opportunity to teach 2 courses here on campus, and in one of my courses I do teach sports nutrition and how to read labels. Judy does a wonderful job with this. And education is the key. And we sit and we break this down. So Mike, if you come in, I've been taking this. Is this okay? Well, let's read the label. Vitamin B6, vitamin B12, great. Chromium, wonderful. You're looking at allowances that are okay. Oh, wait a minute. This has something that's been banned by the NCAA. I'm sorry. I would highly recommend you don't use this because you could, if you get tested by the NCAA, you may test positive and you lose your eligibility. And eligibility is 365 days. So that's not good.
Yeah. Another area of concern is, the prescription drugs or over-the-counter drugs that athletes might taking. They may not realize that they're buying something or they're being prescribed something that might have a banned substance. So, Dan and I try to do some education with the athletes on, to let them know they need to beware not to take something that's going to have a banned substance.
One of the things that I've kind of gotten into a little bit more on the side, Judy's really good with the coaches and the athletes. I've been starting to talk a lot with the doctors. Some of our athletes will come back from a physician visit with a prescription drug that's been banned. Now the NCAA does not frown upon that, but if there's a substitute they can use that hasn't been banned, they highly encourage it. If the physician for some reason does not want to change to that drug or generic or whatever, the NCAA cannot hold that athlete responsible. That athlete's under medical care. It's been a prescribed drug for a condition regardless of what it is, and they can't hold them accountable. So when they do their testing, they do list those drugs. Being honest in this case is definitely the best policy. And then they have to show prescriptions. We keep track of all the medical records downstairs, so we know that, so-and-so has been on Vicodin, for whatever reason, versus the roommate that shows up with Vicodin in their system. Oh, I use my roommate's pills. That's not right. It's against the law, but and then they can be found. The NCAA can suspend them for that. So there is some leeway in there with some of the prescription drugs, but education to the GPs and the family docs out there is really important.
I don't have too much time left. Elliot, I'd like to come back to you for a moment because you are the faculty representative of the NCAA. 2 quick questions. Number 1, do you know why there hasn't been uniformity within the NCAA in this area before?
I think partly if the NCAA were to mandate this, they would have to supply money to the campuses, and they aren't willing to put money into these programs right now. The other thing, there's probably so much variability in schools with the big team sports, football, basketball sports, where you're going to get more injuries and more potential for abuse of these drugs. I think that those schools are going to require much more monitoring, much more education than some of the smaller schools. And how would you distribute the responsibility among the schools for doing that? And that's at least one reason why there's probably, at this point in time, no uniformity.
The other question, and I don't know if it can be answered or not, we're talking about the relationship with our coaches and our student athletes. Is there a possibility that this could be expanded to the general student population?
Absolutely. The problem with that, I mean, these drugs are not good for anybody to take, whether they're a student athlete, whether they're just a normal person who doesn't undergo intense trainings and things like that. The reason that we're concerned with this is because it is a violation of NCAA rules to take performance-enhancing drugs. Now, recreational types of drugs are illegal, period, and these types of policies certainly can take place with the general student population for that type of educational program, intervention, counseling, and things like that, and that is available for the student population. And the one thing that we're trying to do, again, Judy and Dan have said that these policies have been in place for a number of years, somewhat outdated, and we're bringing that up to better code, but there's been no real teeth involved in these policies right now, and what we're trying to do is put some teeth into the policy by actually starting the drug testing program. And you can have as much education and talk as you want, but until you put some teeth behind it, the students are going to think, well, I'm never going to be caught. It doesn't really matter. And that's what we're trying to do at this point as well.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I want to thank each of you for coming in. Appreciate the information. I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed, and we'll take it in a couple of other directions, talking with coaches and student athletes and other administrators. But to each of you, thank you again for coming in and making everyone aware of the situation here at IPFW.
Thanks, guys.
We've had a number of distinguished guests here. Dan Fox, the head athletic trainer, Judy Tillapal, Chris, and I apologize, I forgot your last name already. Kaznar, and Elliot Blumenthal. We're going to take a break and then continue our discussion with a new group of people, and that'll take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
Hey, I got a filet of sole and a cracked crab for Mr. Studied higher math back in school and now can order expensive lunches and charge it to the company.
He's in a meeting. I'm his never studied algebra, calculus, or any other kind of math. Now I'm stuck in this dead-end job assistant.
Can you sign for it?
It's about the only thing I'm qualified to do. That and answer phones for Mr. AP Calculus and number theory expert with the big office upstairs.
Have a good one.
You too.
May he bless you and keep you. May he grant you peace. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all for coming. I'll see you all next week, and please be careful going home.
This is me, and my mom and dad, and my big brother Alex, and Jack. This is the day I learned that sandals got their name from sand, and that the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget I was sick. This was my wish.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Our emphasis for the remainder of this week's program and for a portion of next week's program is on the new substance abuse policy that was enacted at the university effective earlier this month. Well, we just heard from some of the people who helped create the policy in the previous segment, and now we're going to talk to a couple of assistant coaches here on staff at the university. And I asked these two gentlemen to come not only because they're assistant coaches, but they were both also former student athletes here at IPFW. To my immediate right, Cowan Leiter, assistant volleyball coach of the women's volleyball team, and to Cowan's right, Mike Harper, who is the chief cook and bottle washer for both men's and women's soccer. And Mike, again, I appreciate you hobbling over here. He's got a broken leg and a broken arm, and you're not feeling good right now.
I'm doing all right.
Well, we really appreciate you coming over. Substance abuse. As student athletes, were you, I won't ask you if you were directly involved in any abuse, but were you aware of any possible teammates that maybe indulged in something that they shouldn't have? Without mentioning names, are you?
I'd say definitely. I mean, at any college, you're going to have it. You're going to have people who abuse alcohol. You're going to have people who abuse drugs, and it goes on. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't see any of it or be around, I was around it. But it does happen, and it does need to be addressed. And I think this is a great opportunity to do so.
Colin?
Yeah, I remember a few of the athletes from my time that it was more alcohol than anything else. But today's society is just much more aware of it, and there's such a big variety of substances out there that it's just more prevalent these days.
I know I'm going to date myself. When I participated in high school and collegiate athletics, I was always brought up, you don't drink, you don't smoke, because if you do, you don't participate, period. End of story. No chance of parole or anything like that. Was it that way when you two played here?
Here at IPFW, I don't remember us having any kind of set guidelines and rules. If you got in trouble with it, they would help you get counseling and whatever, but there was really no formal written rules or policies on it.
Judy talked about in the previous segment some of the goals of this program, and goal number 1, to educate athletes, coaches, and staff concerning nutritional supplements, drugs, tobacco and alcohol abuse, and associated problems. How have you worked with her? We'll start with her first. How have you been able to work with her and her people? And then we'll lead on to how have you been able to work with your student athletes in this area?
Oh, we've had Judy come in a couple times and just sit down and go over nutritional guidelines. And, I don't know if it's more substance abuse or just basic nutritional guidelines for our athletes. Get them eating right, get them eating healthy, and she's been a big help as far as that goes.
Mike?
Yeah, Judy's definitely helped us out tremendously. There's a lot of stuff that as coaches or as athletes that we don't know about. We know about alcohol and we know about certain drugs, but there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about that she's bringing to our attention that may enhance performance and is illegal, or may nutritionally make our kids suffer. So she's bringing a lot of stuff to the table, and I think it's going to help all of our programs.
Was it kind of a shock to find out what is good and what's not as good as far as the athletes that you work with are concerned when you first spoke to them about it? Or what was their reaction like?
I think overall that our athletes really didn't mind. I think a lot of them were for it. They're here for business. They want to play and they want to get an education. There may be a few bad apples, but those guys are going to be weaned out. And I think they're excited about that. I know our kids are. I can't speak for other programs, but I think the majority of the athletes are feeling that way.
Colin?
Yeah, I think the majority of our team was very excited, because going through high school and just growing up, I mean, you've got your parents providing you meals and all that, and you get out on your own, and all of a sudden you're just eating what's easy, and sometimes that's not always a healthy diet. And bringing some of this up and making our kids aware of it has really opened some eyes as far as the values of nutrition helping you become a better athlete.
In terms of nutritional supplements, and we'll use that particular area right now, how much peer pressure is there on these student athletes to take these supplements to build upper body strength, to build the leg strength, to build stamina, and to be able to participate at a higher level than they've ever participated before? How much pressure is there from their own teammates? How much pressure is there from the coaches? And how much pressure is there from the outside, do you think?
I would have to say that there's not too much pressure. There's pressure for our kids to learn how to eat right and drink the right stuff, and they're being pressured into that. But as far as performing and enhancement drugs, I don't think there's any.
Colin, anything?
Yeah, I don't really think that performance-enhancing drugs have come into it as much, but I mean, our kids have been pushing each other to just get in the weight room and get stronger, and so I don't know if, personally, if any of the performance-enhancing drugs have been mentioned or any of our kids are looking into that, and I'm hoping they're not. So,
having spoken with Judy and so forth, in each of your sports, women's volleyball, you're jumping, and with soccer, both men's and women's, it's more of like a marathon in endurance because it's at least 90 minutes up and down, back and forth, a very good-sized field. Having said that, what's a typical pregame or postgame meal like for the teams? And is it good and healthy, or is it not so healthy? Or
I think, especially on the road, we eat much healthier pregame meals. We try to stay away from the fatty foods, away from the fried foods, and we get chicken or pasta or something. And I mean, as far as that goes, that's been a big change as far as from when I played. I mean, we used to go, let's hit McDonald's before the game, and let's
yeah. When I played basketball and we had a game at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday or Tuesday, we got out of school at 2:15. At 2:30, we were at Burger King, knowing that we went to Burger King and then we had to lay low until we had to go back to the school, take it easy and just not do anything. But you don't do that these days, do you?
No, we find like an Applebee's or a pretty nice restaurant. We sit down, we have a decent meal, and hopefully that holds them through the match.
The trainers have now become a much more important factor of collegiate athletics. I was astounded in talking and listening to Dan Fox in the last segment of all the different supplements and the stuff that's not good or has been banned by the NCAA. Well, we didn't get into, but we were going to, and I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, amphetamine. And we had here a case just yesterday as we're taping this of a professional baseball player dying. Initially, the preliminary autopsy was massive organ failure caused by heat stroke, finding pills in his locker with amphetamine in it, which is a banned substance. How important do you feel the role of the trainer is in knowing what pills an athlete can take and what pills they can't take, whether it be for a runny nose or a cough or a headache or anything else? How much more important now is that role of the trainer?
I think that's very vital for, and our guys do a great job of it, Dan Fox and whatnot, for two reasons. One, we're very concerned about the health of our student athletes, and second, they got to watch their behinds too. They got to make sure everything's NCAA legal, and we don't want to get any violations and whatnot. But I think the biggest concern is the health of our student athletes, making sure they're healthy and competing at their highest level.
We're almost out of time in this segment, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask one question. Do you feel the policy that's in effect today would have been good back when you participated, or do you think it's too strong a policy, or not strong enough?
I feel it's a very good policy. I would have welcomed it back then. I mean, if it was if it had been in place back then and we'd carried it forward, I think it could have headed off a lot of problems over the years, and just by making kids aware that this is the policy that's in place.
Mike?
Yeah, if they're aware of it, they're not going to do it. It's simple as that. If the kids that are here that are playing to get an education, they're not going to get messed up with that stuff. So I think if they're aware of it and they're educated, you're not going to have problems of it. So once we get this thing rolling, I think it's going to be great.
I've got enough time to ask for one final thought, and that is to be able to speak to a prospective student athlete who may be thinking of coming to IPFW. whatever sport it is. Given the fact that we have this policy in effect now, what piece of advice could each of you give to that person that may help them in their, not only their decision to come and participate, but to come here and do things the right way?
I think that a lot of that is obviously learned through their high school, but you know, just inform them that we have this policy, and if they can read up on it, I don't know if it'll be on the internet or whatnot, but any kind of education on it, just so they're aware of what, you know, what to expect when they're coming in, so they don't get caught. You know, a lot of these kids don't know of certain things they can and can't take, so they need to be educated right from the get-go.
Colin, you have the last word.
I agree with Mike. It begins in high schools. The high schools these days are much stricter on their policy, and they got to understand that it's going to carry on through college, and they've got to set their priorities and know what's important to them. If playing and getting a good education and being on scholarship is important to them, they've got to know the rules that they have to follow to get that opportunity.
I appreciate both of you coming in. Colin Leiter from women's volleyball, Mike Harper from men's and women's soccer. Good luck and get healthy with the arm and the leg.
Will
and appreciate your comments on this this subject here this afternoon.
Thank you.
That's Mike Harper and Colin Leiter, assistant coaches here at IPFW and also former student athletes at the university as well. We'll take a break and I'll come back with some final comments in just a moment right here on College 56 Sports.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, it kills over 1,500 people every year and injures 71,000 more. Inadequate sleep has been linked to health and safety risks, even premature death. But today, new treatments are helping millions get the sleep they need. So talk to your doctor or take our free risk assessment on the web at sleepfoundation.org. Sleep deprivation. It's real, it's dangerous, and it's more treatable than ever.
It's the most magnificent sight in the universe. This planet full of life and wonder. This planet we call home. As an Earth Team volunteer, you can help the Natural Resources Conservation Service care for it, right in your own community. Call 1-888-LAND-CARE to find out how, because there's just no place like home.
Excuse me. I can't seem to find these anywhere.
Huh. These books are no longer available.
I didn't know.
May I have your name, please?
Why?
Excuse me.
What did I do?
We just have a couple of questions.
Easy, easy.
A Stargate. That's the door to other worlds that my character Tilk and the rest of my team use on Stargate SG-1. It's a door to exploration and exciting adventure. And education can provide you with a similar passageway to a world full of possibilities. So stay in school and graduate.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We hope you're enjoying our discussion of the substance abuse policy. We certainly want to thank all of our guests who appeared earlier in the program, the coaches and the other administrative members. Next week, we're going to continue this discussion. We hope to have some of our student athletes who have to adhere to the policy on the program. We're hoping to have Judy and Chris back to talk about some of the classes that they teach and which might be of benefit. And we're also working on possibly getting Athletic Director Mark Pope to come and make an appearance as well as the overall administrator for the policy for the IPFW Athletic Department. Now, what's ahead athletic-wise this week? The men's basketball team is at home. On Tuesday night, they played Centenary College. Thursday night, they play Chicago State. And on Saturday at 1 o'clock over at the Memorial Coliseum, they have the home finale senior day. They'll take on the Wright State Raiders from the Horizon League. Final home game for seniors D'Angelo Woodall and Brad Knoll. So again, as this program is being aired, Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Saturday, 1 o'clock at the Coliseum, the final men's home basketball games of the year. Women's basketball team was in Texas. Tuesday night, they took on Texas Pan American, and on Thursday night, they will play Texas A&M Corpus Christi, teams that defeated them here at the Gates Center earlier in the year. And then next week, they close out their season with a game at Cleveland State. We'll talk about that perhaps more a little bit next week. Volleyball team, 2 more home matches, both conference matches. Friday night, they take on Mercyhurst College out of Pennsylvania. And Saturday night, Loyola of Chicago, one of the favorites for the MEVIC title this year, comes to town. Both matches start at 7 p.m. Saturdays will be broadcast here on College 56. Kelly Hartley will be joining me to bring you all the action if you can't make it here in person. Real quickly, women's tennis team will be taking on IUPUI Saturday morning at 11:30 over at Wildwood Racket Club. And on Sunday, both men's and women's teams will be traveling to Cleveland State, action taking place around 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Baseball, finally, weather permitting, will get underway. They were canceled last week down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They weren't able to play Oral Roberts. This weekend, if Mother Nature cooperates, they're going to be playing Tennessee Tech in a 3-game series over 2 days. And track and field will be taking part of an invitational meet at Purdue University this weekend as well. So, as always, a lot of action taking place on the athletic front here at IPFW. Time's up for this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. As always, we thank you, the viewer, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. We invite you to come back again next week. We'll continue and finish our discussion on the substance abuse policy, and we'll take a look and see what else is happening from action taking place this week. But that's on next week's edition of the show. And until next week, this is Mike Ma saying, have a great week and go Dons. A wise old proverb once said that the best laid plans of mice and men can sometimes go up in smoke. Well, that's what happened for a couple of our athletic teams this past weekend, and also for our original plans for what we were going to show you here on Mastodon Spotlight. To further understand what I'm talking about, stay tuned. I'll explain as Mastodon Spotlight's coming up next right here on College 56 Sports.
Hi, I'm Amanda Tapping. On Stargate SG-1, my character discovered that the Stargate could be used as a key to unlock an endless variety of adventures. Your key for endless adventure is a good education. Don't limit your options. Stay in school.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maz. Welcome once again to Mastodon Spotlight. Well, as I said a moment ago, somebody a long time ago once said that sometimes the best laid plans of mice and men can go up in smoke. And that's what happened on a couple of the fronts here at IPFW this past week. As far as athletic participation, Coach Billy Gernon and his men's baseball team, frustrated once again as inclement weather forced the cancellation of their 3-game series down at Tennessee Tech. That's 6 games now that the team has lost due to the bad weather. They still have yet to play a game. They're hoping to play this weekend. They were supposed to play in a tournament, I believe, down in Evansville. And I know the Evansville area has already been ruled out. And they are looking at alternatives. They're going to try their best to schedule at least 1 or 2 games this weekend so that they can finally get their season underway. Bad weather also cost the IPFW women's softball team their final appearance at a tournament that they appeared in down in New Mexico, and we'll be talking more in this program with head coach Keith Fisher about that. And third, Last week, if you remember, and if you did watch Mastodon Spotlight, we started a presentation on the new substance abuse policy that was enacted here at IPFW effective February the 3rd, and we had a number of distinguished guests that appeared. We were hoping to bring you the conclusion of that report this week. However, due to some, best I can say, is scheduling snafus, we weren't able to get all the people we wanted to by the time we started taping this program. So the finish of the substance abuse policy will take place next week. We do have some guests coming in, and we'll have those interviews set up for you, so you'll be able to see that next week, and we apologize for the delay. Now, having said all that, let's do what we like to do here at Mastodon Spotlight. Before we start to talk with coaches and student athletes, we review what's going on during the past week here at IPFW. And we'll turn our attention to the hard court as the IPFW men's basketball team finished the home portion of their schedule this past week. They had 3 games, 2 games here at the Hilliard Gate Sports Center and a game at the Memorial Coliseum. And the Mastodons are playing very well right now. On Tuesday night, they took on the Gents of Centenary College, a team that they had played down in Shreveport, Louisiana just 6 days prior, a team that they had led at the half down at Centenary and then got blasted in the second half and lost. Different story this time around. IPFW could do no wrong from the floor, literally. They hit 70% of their shots on the floor in the first half, 68% from the game, and they defeated Centenary 90-76. 4 players in double figures for the Mastodons. Sophomore Rick Wyan, 24 points, 22 of those in the first half, 9 of 11 shooting. David Simon really coming into his own as a post player, 21 points on 7 of 8 shooting from the floor and 7 of 7 at the foul line. Terry Collins, the sophomore from Snyder High School, 20 points on 6 of 10 shooting, including 3 of 4 from three-point range, also 5 of 6 at the foul line. And senior D'Angelo Woodall, 15 points on 6 of 8 shooting from the floor, including 1 big dunk and 3 of 4 at the line. Again, 90-76. Big win for the Mastodons. Erased that loss 6 days earlier and started the week off on a good note. 2 nights later, Thursday night, they played at the Gate Center against Chicago State, a member of the Mid-Con, team that they defeated in Chicago back in early January, 67-63. Jumped out to a 9-point lead early, a 10-point lead on 3 occasions, but Chicago State was tough. Even though they hadn't won on the road all year, Cougars played tough, actually took the lead with about 12 minutes to go in the second half. Mastodons came back, won the ball game 75-71. Again, the same quartet, Rick Wyan, D'Angelo Woodall, Terry Collins, David Simon, all in double figures. Wyan with 19, Woodall with 14, Collins with 12, David Simon with 10, and they came from behind, won the ball game 75-71. Good way to go out as far as for seniors Brad Noe and D'Angelo Woodall as far as playing at the Gate Center. So that was 2 in a row. And then last Saturday, the actual home finale took place at the Memorial Coliseum, and a crowd of over 3,100 people attended. Even though the weather turned bad as the day progressed, Mastodons played perhaps their best ball game of the year, and they defeated Wright State of the Horizon League 84-61, had a 6-point lead at halftime, and then they just stretched it out to as many as 25 points. Big days. David Simon, 24 points, 15 rebounds. Rick Wyan, 23 points, 10 rebounds. He was 5 of 7 from three-point range. Terry Collins, D'Angelo Woodall, 12 points apiece. And to cap it off with 23 seconds to go, senior Brad Noe knocked down 2 free throws, and those were career points number 1,000 and 1,001. Got a great ovation from the crowd. Couldn't ask for a nicer guy, Brad Noe. 4 hard years here at IPFW. Cracked a 1,000-point barrier. Mastodons 84, Wright State 61. 3 in a row, 5 out of the last 7. They'll finish up this week with the game up at the University of Maine. Now, quickly, women's basketball. And we'll be talking in more detail with Bruce Patterson in a little while about these. The team, after having won their home finale against Texas Pan American, 5 days later, they traveled down to Texas and took on Texas Pan Am once again, this time on their court. And unfortunately, the result wasn't the same. When they played here, IPFW won 64-57 in a throwing come-from-behind win, as they didn't even get the lead until just under 3 minutes to go in the ball game. Down at Pan American, it was a little bit different. IPFW had the lead at halftime, 29-27, but Texas Pan Am came out like lions in the second half, outscoring the Mastodons 44-28 and coming away with a 71-57 victory. IPFW had 3 players in double figures, Hillary O'Connor with 14 points, Amy Geralds with 13, and Maggie Bruning with 10. Then 2 days later, last Thursday night, they took on Texas A&M Corpus Christi, a team that defeated them here at the Gates Center earlier in the year, and just ran into some hot shooting, especially three-point shooting on the part of Corpus Christi. Islanders won 99-88. They hit 50% of their shots on the floor. They hit 53% of their shots from three-point range. And on the bright side, Courtney Nicely, a season-high 26 points. Amy Gerald, 17. Maggie Bruning, 14. And though they still played well, they come back with the 2 losses in Texas. They have one more game against Cleveland State, and we'll talk with Bruce Patterson about that game in just a little while. Now, men's volleyball, 2 matches last week. On Friday night, they took on Mercyhurst College out of Pennsylvania. They won the match in straight sets, 30-19, 34-32, 35-33. They rested most of the starters in the third set. Angel Ruiz had 15 kills. Dennis Santiago had 42 assists and 10 digs to lead the Volley Dons to victory. Saturday night, in a game that we originally started to bring you on College 56 Sports, but we were not able to complete the match thanks to a leak in the roof, I guess we should say, a 21-year-old leak, as Arnie Ball says. The match was stopped midway in set number 1. Loyola was up 21-17, was delayed for over an hour. They had to clear out one section of the stands where some of our cameras were, and that's why we weren't able to continue broadcasting the match to you. And maybe the Volley Dons wished that the whole match had been called off, because they ended up losing the match 30-24, 30-25, 24-30, 30-27 to a very, very good Loyola team. Jeff Patak, Matty Zubashevsky had 21 kills apiece. Dennis Santiago had 55 assists in the losing effort. They will play 2 games on the road this week at Ohio State and at Ball State, and you can find out more in depth about IPFW volleyball by tuning into the Arnie Ball Show here on College 56 Sports. Finally, tennis. The men and women's team had matches scheduled at Cleveland State last Sunday. Bad weather canceled those matches out. But the women's team was able to get a match in last Saturday at the Wildwood Racquet Center here in Fort Wayne. They took on the Jaguars of IUPUI, and unfortunately, they lost 6-1. Beth Miller in singles, getting the only victory for the Mastodons. We'll talk with Eric Burns also in this program as they now get ready to head out to Hilton Head Island in about 10 days, 2 weeks for a tournament, both the men's and women's teams there. So I think, one other thing, the men's and women's track and field team took part in the Purdue Invitational, did very well, and hopefully soon, one of these weeks, we will get a chance to speak to Rick Norton and some of the members of that team as they completed their indoor season. They've had 6 indoor meets already, believe it or not. Now they have a 4-week break, and then they'll get ready to go outdoors. And hopefully by then the weather will break as well. That's what took place last week here at IPFW athletics-wise. When we come back, we will sit down with head coach Keith Fisher and talk to him and see how he enjoyed playing softball in the state of New Mexico. But that conversation will take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
I can listen.
I can cook.
Good. I can coach.
Kids with something to do are less likely to do drugs.
I can drive.
I can paint. I can dance.
A little of your time can make a lifetime of difference.
I can read.
I can help. You can help. Call toll-free 1-877-KIDS-313 to find out about community drug prevention programs.
I can keep a kid off drugs.
trial by fire. It is a rite of passage, a challenge to join the elite. And if you succeed, if you can master your fear, outsmart your enemy, and never yield even to yourself, you will be changed forever. The few, the proud, the Marines.
I helped turn my child's public school into one with extended hours, 6 days a week year-round, filled with loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One with medical and dental services right there. A school where students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. Turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. In spite of the fact that it is cold and there's a lot of snow on the ground outside, there was one of the athletic teams that was able to play outdoors last weekend, and that was the IPFW women's softball team. And they got on an airplane and headed out to the state of New Mexico and took part in a tournament. With us to talk about that tournament is the head honcho for IPFW women's softball, Keith Fisher. Welcome back.
Thanks, Mike.
Are you sure you wanted to come back?
Not really. Not when we flew in Sunday night with all the snow, but we're back.
Let's talk about the trip itself. It was a chance to play some good caliber opponents and a chance to play, period. And instead of beating your brains in, you're in the gym at 6 o'clock every morning.
Yeah, that's correct. We were just anxious to get out of the gym, anxious to get outdoors. A lot of these teams had already played 14, 15, 16, 17 games already, and of course, naturally, it's from the west and south, the teams. So we were just tickled to play in 65-plus degree weather and sunshine. And
shh, don't say that.
So we went down, and our girls competed real well. We only won one game out of 4. We came back 1-3, but saw a lot of good things from our young kids and from our players, period. So I'm pleased. I'm pleased to get started again when we head south to actually Orlando.
Another warm weather site. Before we talk about the games, how were you able to get into this tournament in the first place?
Matter of fact, New Mexico State coach sent me a letter and some information and called me and wanted to know if we were interested in coming and playing, and they helped us along a little bit with a little money and little rooming, and anytime you get things like that, we're going to jump on those opportunities and opportunities to get out early. This is the earliest this university, as far as I know, is softball have played. Usually it's spring break when they play, and we've got to play earlier because all the other teams in your Division I are playing earlier, and it makes a big difference.
Well, let's talk about some of these games we played. In the very first game, you took on the University of Nevada at Reno.
It was an excellent ball game. It was one of the. I told the girls after the game, you stood there and you played in the stadium and you looked out into the mountains. You could see the mountain ranges, and it was jagged up and down, and that game kind of went that way, up and down. We jumped on them early, 2-0, and they come back and scored a run, I think, the next inning, so we were still up 2-1. And then eventually they jumped on us again, and it was 5-2, I believe, at that point. Usually the 5th inning, for some reason, I tell the girls that's our inning, and we came back and scored 5 runs, so we go up 7-5. And then we just started faltering again, and we wound up losing the game. But some of our girls, I think Lori Ferrote went 3 for 4. Maggie Bruning, who is a basketball player and was able to hook up with us and was with our tournament, went 2 for 4, played an excellent shortstop. I don't think she made an error the whole tournament. Also, I think Crystal Fisher went 2 for 4. And so we had some good hitting. Angela Grabchek hit the ball really solid and hard, and I saw a lot of great things happening. We played the next game against University of Illinois at Chicago, and it was probably about an hour and a half later, and just tell you the truth and not making excuses, we were kind of out of gas. We just didn't play sharp, and we went through about 3 innings. It was 0-0, and they scored a couple of runs, and then we had a very, very bad inning. They scored 8 runs in 1 inning, and we just didn't get the job done. I told them, I said I was really not pleased with their performance. I said we're a better team than this, so we're going to need to regroup, come back the next day and play hard, which we did. Played Miami of Ohio, and it was a great ball game, and we won 1-0. And our freshman pitcher, I started her, and I had made a sort of a decision that evening. Talked to my pitching coach, Dennis Smith, and I said, Dennis, we got to use all 3 of these pitchers. I said, if we have to go 3 innings, and whatever. So I said, because all of a sudden our girls now are pitching, but really hadn't had that experience on the mound like some of these other teams, so maybe they're only good for 3 innings. So he said, Coach, whatever you think, we'll try. So we went the first 3 innings with Beth Harmon. She was pitching a no-hitter, and he looks at me and he said, what do you do now? And I said, we'll just stay with her. She completed the game, and Lori Ferrote made a tremendous slide into home plate. There was 2 outs. She was on first base, and I always tell the girls, I said, with 2 outs, you need to start running if you're on base no matter what, because you don't know what's going to happen. Unfortunately for them, the right fielder dropped a routine ball, and she scored. Catcher had the plate blocked. She slid out around the catcher and tagged it with her hand on home plate and scored our winning run. So it was an exciting ball game, and it was a great win for us.
1-0 games, believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize it. In softball and even in baseball, sometimes a 1-0 game can be exciting, especially if you like pitching and defense.
Correct, yeah. And then with that evening, we're a couple hours later, 3 hours later, we played Mississippi State. Mississippi State, I think last year was ranked 22nd in the nation, and very, very good ball club. We jumped on them early, 1-0. Went through about 3 innings, and all of a sudden the errors took place, and we lost that ball game 5-1. Should have been closer. I think they had 1 earned run in that ball game. So, I wasn't happy, never happy with a loss, but I could see a lot of good things that took place this weekend with our kids. The first ball game, going back to Nevada, we had 5 errors, and I tell the girls, I said, you might as well chalk up a run every time we have an error. That's how I look at it. And we had 5 errors, and we lost by 5 runs. And you just can't make errors in any games you play, but especially in softball, it's a fast game, and you make those errors, and they'll come back to haunt you. And that's what happens sometimes.
At this point, you were able to get 4 games in, and that's the good side of the coin, and the kids got some experience. Do you foresee, as this season progresses, that this may be the type of team where scratch out what runs you can, and basically you're going to have to rely on a Mindy Pomeroy, a Beth Harmon, a Mindy Mason, and the rest of that pitching staff?
Absolutely. Well, I think we have better hitters this year than I've ever had since I've been here. A lot stronger hitters, contact hitters. So. And we have girls, for example, Maggie Bruning probably missed 3 home runs because the wind was blowing so hard, and also Angela Grabchek. So we do have the power. We also have some speed. So we're going to use that combination, but the pitching is very, very critical. And we're going to mix it up with the pitching, and no matter what we do. And I was really pleased with our freshman pitcher. I mean, she's a battler. Mindy Pomeroy is a great pitcher also. Mindy Mason is a great pitcher. We use her in relief now a little bit, but she'll get some starts, and we're going to make her tougher. I'm always kind of on her case a little bit, and I always kid her because she's left-handed. Some of those left-handed pitchers are lazy, and she just smiles at me.
You mentioned that you and Dennis decided, at least initially, before Beth got on a roll, that you were only going to go maybe 3 innings at a stretch. Because of the fact, as we're going to talk about now, this weekend you were supposed to go down to Evansville, but you can't thanks to Mother Nature. So you're going to be off until you head down to Orlando. When you get back down to Orlando, are you going to employ the same type of maybe 3 innings, or you see how things develop? Or?
Well, you know, I think that, and the pitchers are aware of this. It's not like we're throwing a secret at them or whatever, and I think we'll look at it that way. You know, if a lot of times after 3 innings, if they get 9 outs, the batters have seen them once, and the rest of the staff. So sometimes that next time they come up in the 4th inning, maybe sometimes you can get a pitcher figured out, and if they figure out what's going on, we'll switch it up. So, but it's hard to take someone out when they're throwing a no-hitter, and you know I won't do that. I make mistakes, but I hope I don't make that big mistake.
Well, up ahead, as we said, the Governor's Cup tournament at Evansville, unfortunately, canceled due to the bad weather. So I'm going to guess probably Saturday, March 8th, maybe Friday, March 7th. I'm not sure. You and the team's going to get on the. Are you going to get on the Big Bird, or are you going to get on the big bus or vans?
Oh no, we like to fly. We'll get on the Big Bird. I know our baseball coach is a little weary about flying. He's kind of like some of the sportscasters. I don't know. John Madden, he doesn't like to fly. So maybe Billy and John have the same genes or something. No, we're flying down, and then we'll have some vans to use when we're down there. But
well, real quickly, we're almost out of time. You're going to play in about a 5 or 6 day stretch. Quinnipiac, Maine, Pennsylvania, Lehigh, Providence, Austin Peay, St. Joe, PA, Tennessee Martin, Niagara, and then Pennsylvania again. A lot of ball games in a short period of time. Quick thought as we're about out of time on what you hope to accomplish on this trip.
Well, we'd naturally like to come out of there with 10 wins, but we got to be realistic, and if we can come out 5-5, we'd be pleased. Wouldn't be happy, but if we come out better than that, then we'll be pleased. So,
well, we wish you well. Fink, you were out in New Mexico last week and it was warm, and in another 10 days or 12 days, you're going to be down in Florida when it's warm. At least bring some of the warm temperatures back with you.
We're going to try to do that so we can play at home one of these days.
Well, good luck on the trip.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Keith Fisher has been our guest, the head softball coach here at IPFW. We'll take a break and then come back to the realities of winter. We'll talk women's basketball with head coach Bruce Patterson. That's when the Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, it kills over 1,500 people every year and injures 71,000 more. Inadequate sleep has been linked to health and safety risks, even premature death. But today, new treatments are helping millions get the sleep they need. So talk to your doctor or take our free risk assessment on the web at sleepfoundation.org. Sleep deprivation. It's real, it's dangerous, and it's more treatable than ever.
It's the most magnificent sight in the universe. This planet full of life and wonder. This planet we call home. As an Earth Team volunteer, you can help the Natural Resources Conservation Service care for it, right in your own community. Call 1-888-LAND-CARE to find out how, because there's just no place like home.
Excuse me. I can't seem to find these anywhere.
Huh. These books are no longer available.
I didn't know.
May I have your name, please?
Why?
Excuse me.
What did I do?
We just have a couple of questions.
Easy, easy.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Just as we had a chance to speak with Keith Fisher and his ball got to play in some warmer weather out in New Mexico, the women's basketball team traveled down to Texas last week and took on 2 opponents, Texas Pan American and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And with us to talk about those 2 ball games and a brief look ahead to the season finale later this week against Cleveland State is head coach Bruce Patterson. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Was it warm down in Texas?
Not as warm as it should have been.
but warmer than here.
Oh, it was warm. I mean, we a couple of days down there was actually pretty nice. It was 65 to 70 degrees and the sun was shining. But actually, by the end of the week, most of the week was spent in light rain and overcast and high 60s. So weather wasn't exactly the what the girls. It's probably the best thing for us. You know, I can imagine the kids wanting to run out and be out in the sun a little bit, and there wasn't any desire to do that.
The team got on the plane and went down to Texas on kind of a high because we had a real emotional week finishing the home season, and ironically, in the home finale, we defeated Pan American 64-57. It was a big night for Tiara, and the team came from behind. V scored that layup with just under 3 minutes to go. It finally got us the lead, and we won by 7. So emotions were high, and the team has been playing well. But you had to come right back and play that same team down on their court 4 or 5 nights later. Even though it was a similar situation to Lipscomb, except for the fact that we had the game with Centenary and all the travel in between. This time, both teams didn't play anybody else. But thoughts as far as preparation? You beat them here, 64-57. What was the anticipation playing them down at their place? Obviously, you think it's going to play harder playing on their court.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, everybody plays a little bit better on their own floor, and they certainly did that. And I don't know that we had any particular anticipation. We thought we should have won the basketball game. We honestly believe we have better talent going all the way around the court. On the other hand, they played better, and we did not play very well. You know, whether call it the travel, you know, I've said all along that the biggest problem with Division I basketball, the biggest thing that people really have to adjust to is that they got to adjust to getting out there and being on the road. And I mean, it's a tough trip to get to Texas Pan Am. I mean, we drove on bus from here to Indianapolis. Got on an airplane, flew from here to Dallas to Corpus Christi, got on another bus, drove for 2.5 hours, got into Texas Pan Am about, I think it was about 9 o'clock in the evening the night before the game, and then you get up and you practice and you do all those things. It's just a tough trip, and given that's providing excuses, but the kids did not play well.
Well, they did lead at the half, 29-27, but second half was a different story. They outscored us 44-28. They won the ball game 71-57. It's just one of those things. It happens.
Well, I'm not sure we ever want to write it off as just one of those things. That, by the way, is I think our 14th or 15th game this year we've led at halftime, and we have some problems. That's an issue that we've got to become better at next year, is that when we lead at half, we got to become better in the second half, and in many cases we don't. And we came out of the locker room soft again, let them get up and take a lead on us. I thought we fought back a little bit after that lead was there, but quite frankly, they played very well. They shot the ball well. They took care of the basketball from their perspective. They didn't turn it over quite as many times as they had up here, and they out-rebounded us, I believe, and that was a disappointing piece.
Pan Am shot 53% from the floor in the second half, and we shot 23%. Obviously, once a team loses the lead, there seems to be added pressure. How does a team get rid of the pressure? In other words, I got a feeling that they forced up some shots maybe in an effort to get back, or were they good looks, just didn't go down?
We thought we had plenty of good looks. We just were not, playing basketball, whether it's shooting or defending somebody or whatever, it's staying focused and on what you're doing. And I just felt like on that day we were not very well focused. And the kids will tell you, even at halftime when we were up, I didn't feel like we played well. And we told the kids in no uncertain terms at halftime and at the end of the ball game, we got to become more consistent and be better players for 40 minutes. And so we told them we weren't very happy with it, and frankly, we didn't have to tell them that, because these kids are classy, super young people, and I think they understood for themselves that they didn't play up to their level.
Well, 3 players in double figures: Hillary O'Connor with 14, Amy Gerald's 13, Maggie Bruning with 10. So the loss, you get on that bus, you get that 2.5-hour ride back to Corpus Christi, and then you get ready to play an Islander team that beat us on our home court, and a game that I think could have gone either way. If And I know we've talked about the game, and I think it's one of those things, if we execute for 40 minutes, and I think that's been the credo all year, when we execute for 40 minutes, we're very good. We can be a good basketball team.
Well, actually, the game up here is the game where we got a steal with about 1:13 left to go with the lead and missed a wide open layup, and then they come down, hit a three, and it kind of went the other way. We make that layup. I have no question in my mind we win that basketball game. On the other hand, Corpus Christi is a pretty good basketball team. They started off the year, I think, 11-1 or some pretty good number. They had played some pretty good ball teams. They beat Air Force out there, and so it's a pretty good basketball team. And we were just to the opposite side of the Pan Am game, where we didn't feel like we played well and we lost because we didn't play well. At Corpus Christi, I thought we played hard. The kids went in and they battled from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. Actually, in the second half, we came out and played really well. But the start of the second half, we went into the halftime down 8. By midway through the second half, we were up 7. Then Corpus Christi just got hot. I can't explain. They were shooting the three from 2 and 3 steps outside the three-point range and just catching nothing but net time after time. I bet there was a time where they hit 8 shots in a row, 8, 9 shots in a row. It broke our will, if you will, and that they just shot the basketball so well we couldn't do anything about it. I'm not telling you that we're the greatest. I mean, we have flaws in our defensive ability. We are not the greatest defensive basketball team. We will be better next year, and we will be better the next year. But these kids are so young; they don't know, in my opinion, how to play defense for long periods of time. And so, I'm not telling you that they shot them in awful looks. But on the other hand, the way they were shooting, it didn't seem to matter whether we were in their face or away from them. Their post players did a great job, and their outside shooting was great.
Well, Corpus Christi hit 11 three-pointers for the ball game, and that's a lot of points.
Well, we hit 1. If you saw it, the difference in the ball game was they hit 11, we hit 1. So there alone that's a 30-point swing, and where we made up for some of it was we got to the foul line, which is something we do very well. I thought down there Courtney Nicely was just incredible. I think she had 27 or 28, and they had no answer for her. Courtney could get to wherever she wanted to and got her shots off, and we did a great job there. The other one that had a tough night was V. Bibbs. Varia was, I don't remember exactly what it was because I haven't looked at the statistics.
She was 3 of 12 for 6 points.
Yeah, 3 of 12, and I'm going to tell you she had, out of those 12, out of those 9 that she missed, I'll bet you 7 of them were point blank from 3 to 5 feet. Nothing she did wrong, made the good move, got the good elevation, got away from people like she normally does, and when she'd hit 50 to 60% of them, they just wouldn't go down. And it was one of those nights, and we lost.
Final score 99-88, and as you and I talked about a couple of times since you got back, in a way misleading, they hit 13 free throws in the last minute and 21, so that 11-point game really wasn't an 11-point ball game.
No, it was. I can't tell you exactly where it was because again, I've slept on it for a week since then. But there was. It was a 2-3-point game with 3 minutes left to go, and they did a nice job protecting the ball, and they did a nice job continuing to shoot. And then when we sent them to the foul line, even kids that earlier in the day were missing foul shots. Their number 25, their post player, their senior post player, she had missed a lot of foul shots early. We decided to foul her. She knocks down every one she shoots. The point guard, every time she got a chance to shoot it, she was cash, and we were trying not to foul her. But you try to get it in the right hands, but if you don't have time, you can't afford that. So I don't know what they hit there at the end, but it seemed like to me that they hit 100% of their foul shots going down there.
Yeah, they were 13 of 14 in that last minute 21.
Yeah, and that's what good teams do on their home court, and they did it, and they won.
Well, that leaves one game. Wednesday night at Cleveland State against the Vikings from the Horizon League, a team that played us earlier in the year here, and they won the game here, so they've won 3 in a row against us, and I think it's payback time.
Well, so do I. It's going to take an awfully good performance from us. They've got 2 very good players on the outside. One is a solid penetrator, can get into the paint anytime she seems to want to. We got to stop that from happening. And they got one kid that can shoot the ball from 24, 25. If you remember, I think she scored 25 or 26 points on us the last time she played us. If she gets 25 or 26 again, they're going to win. If we can stop her from doing that, And we've made some defensive changes to try to make some adjustments to do that. But the kids still have to execute it. If they get on the court, they execute, keep the ball out of her hands a little bit. Frankly, it's a team that doesn't scare me. I mean, I think we can compete with them. We've got the ability all the way around to compete with them, but if we allow one player to go off on us for 25, then we're probably going to lose the basketball game.
Well, we hope that doesn't happen. We wish you well, and in a couple of weeks, we'll have you back for the season roundup, and then we'll give you a break from talking to us. But again, it's been a good end of the season. The team has played much better, and again, we wish you well this week, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks when we look back on the season in whole.
Well, thanks for having me, and we've enjoyed the season. Going from 3 D1 wins to 9, we feel like we've made some progress. We hope to make some more next year.
Thank you much. We've been talking with Bruce Patterson, head women's basketball coach here at IPFW. We'll take a break, and when we come back, it's tennis time with head coach Eric Burns. That conversation will take place when the Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
Have you saved a life today?
I took 2 flood victims to a shelter.
I donated a day's pay to help a family that lost everything in a fire.
Have you saved a life today?
I teach a class in infant CPR.
I donated a pint of blood.
Have you saved a life today?
No. But today somebody saved mine.
The American Red Cross. Together, we can save a life.
If we do not take responsibility for saving animals from extinction, we allow a part of ourselves to die with them. Help World Wildlife Fund protect animals in the places where they live by ordering a free action kit. Together, we can leave our children a living planet.
Come in, she said, I'll give ya shelter from the storm.
I'm sick of this. I'm sick of dealing with you. I'm sick of.
I work 6 days a week.
Who do you think you are?
Straight.
Don't you ever talk back to me again! You just shut up!
What are you crying about?
What a child learns about violence, a child learns for life. Teach carefully. We can show you how. Act Against Violence. Call 877-ACT-WISE for a free brochure.
What is a hero? Are heroes born, or are they made? In after-school programs, your kids will uncover hidden strengths, discover they have the power to change their future, and find the hero inside themselves. Let us know you on after-school programs in your area. Call 1-800-USA-LEARN. After-school programs, helping kids find the hero within.
I wasn't going to school because I was hanging with the wrong crowd. And one day I was put into juvie for 2 stolen cars, robbery of a house, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And I was locked up. That's when I really realized that, I mean, it wasn't for me. Like, I was only in there 2 months, but to me that was enough. It'd be better for me to stay in school, just get my education. I think I'm happier now. I know I'm happier now.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Time now to shift venues from the basketball court to the tennis court. And we have with us the head coach for both men's and women's tennis here at IPFW, Eric Burns, with us. And Eric will introduce one of his players on the men's team in a moment. But since we've been talking about Mother Nature and what it's done to the baseball team, and I know it knocked off the softball team their last game in New Mexico and what have you, you've been affected by Mother Nature too, because both your teams were supposed to go to Cleveland State last Sunday and you weren't able to.
Right, and the travel conditions were just too rough, and I'm not going to risk it in a 15-passenger van, and a couple of them, driving all that way. And we also had some problems the week before with Akron coming over this way to play our women. So, we play indoors, but at the same time, it's been rough. The weather has really affected the travel.
Before we talk about men's tennis primarily, the women's team was able to get a match in Saturday against IUPUI. And can you briefly talk about that match?
Yeah, it was a very tough match for us, and we lost 6-1. IUPUI is probably the best team in the Mid-Con. Oral Roberts has traditionally been the best team. They've never lost a match in women's play, but I think IUPUI has a team this year that can go in there and really challenge for that conference title. Probably the second or third best team we've played, and just really solid from 1 through 6, and just a tough match for us. But I thought we played pretty well in certain positions.
So the team is actually getting better. It's a case of they're playing some good competition early
Right.
on.
And that was on purpose. I did that on purpose to help us elevate our program. That's the only way we get to where we want to be. It's not going to be by playing cupcake opponents. That's not how you raise the level of your play.
Well, why don't you introduce us to one of the members of your men's team?
This is Mac Chase. He's a freshman from Lenexa, Kansas. And
Mac, sorry about that. Real name Michael, which is a good name because that's my name. Welcome first to the program, second to the university, third to the tennis team. As Coach said, you're from Lenexa, Kansas. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Lenexa is a suburb of Kansas City. I grew up there my entire life. Went to private high school in Overland Park, another suburb. Played tennis in Kansas City.
How'd you end up from Kansas City here to Fort Wayne?
This was the first school that recruited me, and they were going Division I, and it ended up just to be the best offer that I had.
As I mentioned before we started the interview, I'll ask you your preference. Singles, doubles, do you like them both? Do you have one liking more than the other? Or?
I like doubles better, but I'm probably better at singles where I'm at right now in my game.
Baseline player or serve and volleyer?
Baseline, by far.
Coach, talk about him a little bit.
Well, Mac has come in. He's done a real solid job. Had a really good fall. Went 500, I believe, in the fall season. Had a good showing at the Eastern Illinois Invitational. Got to the finals and actually won the Sea Flight consolation round. So he had a good fall, and he worked down the weights a little bit in the off season, and he's come in a lot stronger here in the winter. So I expect his game to only improve from here.
What position in terms of 1 through 6 is he playing?
Right now he's playing 5 singles and 3 doubles. But if he continues to improve and keeps working, I can see him moving up.
Right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
What do you like better, the forehand or the backhand?
Forehand.
Is backhand a two-hand or one-hand?
Two.
Two-hand. Everyone likes that two-handed backhand.
Oh, yeah.
What do you feel is the strongest part of your game?
Probably my hustle, running down balls and just keep fighting over and over.
You've had a chance, I guess, as you said, playing in the fall a little bit, and you've had a couple of matches against, I believe, Ball State and Butler that were able to be played so far here in what we technically will call the spring, although it's still winter outside. What's the biggest difference you've seen between playing collegiately here at IPFW as opposed to playing high school back in Kansas?
Everyone you play is good. There's no easy opponents, and that the level of play is just that much better, that much stronger all around. I've had to change the way I play a little bit to, I guess, win or at least stay competitive, because what I did in high school just doesn't work in college.
What exactly were some of those changes?
I've had to be more offensive, or at least hit the ball harder and deeper, and you can't just hit the ball back and expect somebody to miss. I mean, if you just hit the ball back, the point's done, it's over.
From a mental standpoint, then, when you're playing an opponent, are you more worried about how you hit your shots, or are you thinking strategically, I want to put this guy on the run and see what's his strong point? Do I want to go to his forehand? Do I want to go to his backhand? What's your mode of attack in terms of when you're on the court?
I probably just need to find their weakness and play to that. I don't have the big enough game where I can just go out there and do whatever I want. So playing to their weakness would probably be my best bet.
What's your field of study here at the university?
Business.
And the other question I'll follow up with, you being a freshman, what kind of help have you gotten from your teammates? in practice, or is the practice designed basically for competitions? Who's going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or is it just exactly what's the structure of the practice?
It's a little bit of both. We do a lot of match play, but at the same time, there are drills, and there are drills they work on together. So they get that interaction. In that case, the freshmen can come in and learn a lot from some of the upperclassmen who have that experience.
Still got a long ways to go here in the spring season, but what do you hope to accomplish both from a team standpoint and from an individual standpoint?
I'd like to keep improving and have a 500 record this year going into next year.
Coach, we'll put you on the spot. What do you hope to have him accomplish from a coaching standpoint?
I just really want him to improve with each match, keep a good positive attitude, and just realize that, while the times might be a little tough as a freshman and even as a sophomore, down the line it's going to pay off. All the hard work and maybe a few beatings here and there on the court, it's going to pay off by the time he's a junior and senior. That's something all the freshmen need to realize.
Well, we wish you luck as an IPFW tennis player, both in the classroom and on the court. Well, let's turn our attention now, Eric, if we can, to what's coming up, because you've got a little time off, and then you're going to make this crazy trip down to Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Yeah.
With both teams. How did you arrange? Who is the schedule maker on your teams anyway?
Well, I've been to Hilton Head for 7 or 8 straight years. I'm losing track since my playing days, and everywhere I've coached, we go down there every year. So I'm used to it, and they do a good job of setting everything up and arranging you with teams down there to play. And it's just a nice island, a good environment. It's just a good week. I'm
looking here, at least on the, and I think it's the men's schedule. You're going to play UNC Wilmington, you're going to play Bucknell, you're going to play Penn State, and you're going to play Stonehill College.
Yes.
Is it the same teams for the women, or is it different?
It's different for the women, but all those matches are tough matches. Penn State, especially being ranked, they're a ranked opponent, but all those teams are solid, and it should be good competition for us.
And I see here the women's side, you're going to play Evansville, Bloomsburg University, Western Carolina, and Bucknell.
Yes, also tough teams.
As it's the early part of the schedule, and it's during spring break, conveniently, what is the mindset? Obviously, you want to win every match you play, but is it, as you said earlier, is it just a case of the chance to play outdoors in warmer weather against different competition and hopefully see where you're at and trying to improve? Or
it's a little bit of both. I mean, we're going down there obviously to win the matches, but at the same time, it's our first chance to get outdoors. It's a chance to make the transition from indoor tennis to outdoor tennis. Now, unfortunately, we'll probably come back here and have to go back indoors, but ideally, we would be able to come back and get good weather, and this would be a lead into our hard court season outdoors, but probably won't work out that way.
Well, we wish you well, both men's and the women's. Mac, again, thanks for coming on the program. Good luck in your career here at IPFW.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with head coach Eric Burns, head coach for both men's and women's tennis here at IPFW, and one of his freshman players for the men's team, Mac Chase. I want to also thank Bruce Patterson for coming on. We want to thank Keith Fisher. As always, we thank you, the viewer, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. Next week, again, what we hope to accomplish is to complete our discussion on the new substance abuse policy. We have already done a couple of interviews. We have a couple of more to put together, and we want to finish that. We also hope to be talking with Billy Gernon, the head men's baseball coach, as he hopefully this weekend will get his season underway. But whether he does or not, we will talk with Billy. It's always a lot of fun to have, and we'll talk about his upcoming season. Real briefly, men's basketball finishes their season this week against University of Maine. As Bruce alluded to, the women's team will take on Cleveland State in their season finale. Men's volleyball team, Tuesday night, which would have been last night if you're watching on Wednesday, they took on Ohio State. Friday night, they take on Ball State down in Muncie as they hit the road for the first 2 times this season. And track and field has a 4-week break before they go to the outdoor season. So a little bit of a respite with some of the teams, but some of the others will be in action, and we'll talk to you about that next week. But that's it for this week's show. Again, thanks for tuning in to our Mastodon Spotlight. We invite you to come back again next week, and until next week, this is Mike Moss saying, have a great week, and go Dons. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Moss. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Well, 2 weeks ago, we started a series on the new substance abuse policy that was put into effect here at IPFW on February the 3rd. And we had some number of people with us, 2 of which are here today to come back again and talk about the implementation of the policy. We spoke with a couple of assistant coaches who were former student athletes here at IPFW. Later on in this program, we're going to talk to a couple of current student athletes. We're going to talk to Dr. David Young. We're going to talk to Athletic Director Mark Pope. But we begin this program by having 3 ladies back with us. Well, 2 back with us, 1 new to us. To my immediate right, Chris Kuzner, right. And I think I pronounced it better this time than I did last time, an academic advisor. Mm-hmm. To her right, Courtney Reed. Welcome, Courtney. She's also an academic advisor. And to Courtney's right, Judy Tillapal, Head of Fitness and Wellness here at IPFW. Judy and Chris were here on our first program. Welcome back. We want to talk about education, one of the first focal points of the policy. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over initially to Chris, and between the 3 of you, to get as much information into what time is allotted about classes that are available to student athletes in regards to the substance abuse policy. Chris, I turn it over to you.
Okay, great. We have 2 things that we are offering student athletes. There's a PASS program that is mandatory for all freshmen to attend. And in that program, they come and are exposed to information on alcohol, they're exposed to information on nutrition, a variety of other subjects. And that is how we reach the freshmen primarily. Judy Tillapal also went around with us in the fall semester to all of the students, all of the sports, and we gave information that way about the alcohol program. We had PASS that has been in place for about 5 years now, and we are building on PASS. This year, for the very first time, student athletes had the opportunity to take PASS in combination with meeting 1 more time a week and earn a credit, a college credit, and that was under Hyper H163. And in that class, and in this coming fall, we're going to expand even further on the issues of alcohol education, nutrition, wellness, fitness. And we're going to pull from experts that we have at the university, as well as draw more on the instructors and have them expand on those topics that we just touched on and started this year. We're going to go in more in depth into them next year.
Does PASS stand for 4 different words?
Yes, PASS stands for Promoting Academic Success of Student Athletes. Uh-huh. Yes, and that was Courtney's revelation.
It's worked.
Mm-hmm. It has worked.
It has worked.
What else can what else can the student athlete do to learn more? Any other programs, classes?
Well, when we think of wellness, fitness, education here at campus, we do a number of things all year long. We do in the fall a Stress Buster Day and Depression Awareness Screening Day, our Great American Smokeout. We have a National Collegiate Alcohol Awareness Week. In the springtime, we do an Eating Disorder Awareness Week. We have a health fair with all kinds of mental health screening and physical screenings and health information in general. And in April, we offer Alcohol Awareness and Screening Day. So throughout the school year, we definitely have been and will continue to offer a variety of substance abuse education and awareness programming. In addition to those specific things, we are going to have handouts available to student athletes, coaches, and we also will have available personal attention. You know, if there's any athlete, if there's any coach that needs to, contact us to talk about something that they might be struggling with, we can do that, at no cost.
Now, pass is mandatory for incoming freshmen regardless whether they are student athletes or regular, I shouldn't say regular students, but I'm not sure what other term to use. And what you just mentioned, Judy, these are optional classes or events to take?
Yeah, they're optional special events that we offer every school year. And we definitely inform our coaches and our student athletes about them so they could take advantage of being a participant.
Not to put you on the spot, but what kind of percentage of student athletes and co-ed or coaches have attended some of these?
Well, you know, been pleasantly surprised. You know, with the events that we're offering, we have some student athletes and some coaches attend. I'd say this past couple years we've seen a growth in other previous years. This health fair that's coming up at the end of March is going to be Wednesday, March 26, 9 to 3 at the Wall Student Union. For the first time, our Student Athlete Advisory Board will be there. So they're going to be promoting their various sports. They're going to be promoting all the benefits of being a student athlete and also letting people know about all the various home events that people can attend. So, you know, I'd say that there's a lot of growth. I don't know, Courtney, if you want to mention our life skill program that we're planning.
That's in our future plans. We're looking into offering the NCAA program called Champs Life Skills. And what we're hoping to do is incorporate even more education with a program like that in nutrition and alcohol and decision making. But this is something that's available through the NCAA and that we're definitely looking at taking advantage of to do more education.
How much cooperation have you received from the NCAA in the past? Or is this been an ongoing situation where they've had availability to information, or is there more of an emphasis now on getting the information out?
The NCAA has always had these special programs, and it's us, we here at IPFW, that definitely are very motivated to want to take advantage of what they have to offer us. You know, we're going to be using their resources and various contacts to help us shape some very important education awareness opportunities.
I'm told we only have about a minute left. So I know we've tried to get a lot of information into a short period of time. What I need to ask right now, phone numbers, email addresses, mailing addresses for people, whether they be parents, whether they be students, potential student athletes, or current student athletes, how they can get in touch with each of you in regards to some of these programs to find out more details about them.
Okay, they can call, they can reach Courtney and myself at the same telephone number, so it's only one to remember. It's the University Extension 481-6135. And if they want to reach me by email, it's Kuznarc, Kuznarc, very simply, ipfw.edu. We all have that same ending to our email addresses. And if students are interested in substance abuse education programs going on campus or the athletic program, they can contact Courtney or myself.
And Judy, how do we get in touch with you? Because you got the fitness and wellness programs, which you...
Yeah, let me pass on my phone number. My number is 481-6647, so they're welcome to call me with any questions about our wellness programs that we have throughout the year, or if they could call me if they would like some personal help, if they have any personal help. Also like to pass on our IPFW personal counseling phone number. I think that's important for people to know. It's at 481-6601. So if there's anybody out there that needs some assistance in talking about a stress issue or an issue with alcohol or drugs, they can call and have a very confidential meeting with one of our IPFW personal counselors.
That number again is?
481-6601.
Ladies, I wish we had more time. I apologize, but we got a lot of more people to talk to regards to this issue. Thank you all for coming in, and for the two of you, Judy and Chris, for coming back. We appreciate your input, and we wish the program a lot of success for years to come. But thanks for coming by again today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have been visiting with Chris Kuznarc and Courtney Reed, academic advisors here at IPFW, and Judy Tillapaw, head of fitness and wellness here at the university. We'll take a break, and when we come back, there'll be a discussion that I had, you won't see me, but you'll hear me, with two current student athletes, Brad Knoll from the men's basketball team, Dustin Sherman from the men's volleyball team, and my old sidekick, Ryan Perrott, currently assistant men's volleyball coach, but a former student athlete who played volleyball here at the university for 4 years. And you'll see that discussion when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Joe Perry. And Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, here for RAD. Recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. Never let someone you know get behind the wheel if they've been drinking. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
I like to volunteer for the neighborhood emergency response team to help the firefighters. As you know, I was Fireman of the Year 3 times.
You're Mariano Rivera.
Thank you.
Fireman of the Year is a baseball award.
Yes.
You're not actually a fireman.
No.
Fireman of the Year, huh?
Just a few more minutes.
When you help your neighbors, you help your nation. Everyone can do something.
Visit us at usafreedomcorps.gov.
Can you pass the salt, Dad?
Salt is to pepper as gregarious is to...
Oh, no, not more SAT questions.
In ancient Rome, salt was a form of currency. True or false?
False?
True.
Son, can you locate sodium?
Or chloride?
There are tons of ways to help with your kids' learning. Find the really good ones on connectforkids.org.
You have 3.5 grams of salt and a 5-gram slug. What's the rate of shrivel?
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. As we mentioned last week, we're discussing the new substance abuse policy that was put into effect here on campus on February the 3rd. And in this segment, we get a chance to speak with a couple of present IPFW student athletes and a former student athlete, my old broadcast partner, Ryan Perrott, who's in the middle. On Ryan's right is Dustin Sherman, member of the men's volleyball team, and to Ryan's left, your right, as you're looking at it on the screen, is Brad Knoll, senior member of the men's basketball team, who on Saturday reached a personal milestone as he scored his 1,000th and 1,001st points in the Mastodons win over Wright State. And gentlemen, we thank all of you for spending some time with us. The new substance abuse policy, let's get into a little bit of a discussion. Substance abuse, have any of you ever used substances of any type, period, whether it's nutriment or alcohol or tobacco or whatever? Brad, we'll start with you.
I know there's a time when I tried to look into some protein shakes and just different types of supplements that I could take to enhance my body weight and my strength. Back a few years ago, we really didn't have something that we could look at and put into place and know right from wrong. Now that we've had a new policy in place, it's going to make athletes more responsible, and you have to really check and find out for yourself what's available for you that you can take, and what's out there that you can't. And basically, I think that the main part about the whole policy is if you're responsible and you understand what you're taking, and you find out and you check with our trainers and our athletic staff here at the school, you should be all right.
Dustin?
Actually, I'm about the same way. I've taken the protein shakes before, which after talking to Dan Fox, realized it's not the best thing to do, and it's really not the right way to go about it. After getting in touch with him, he set me up with a better substance thing that is legal through Performance One, which is now available to all the athletes. Really good meal supplement that we are allowed to take. And other than that, I really had no other problems. Really, it is a fine line when you're walking, when you're trying to take anything. Really, the best way to go about it is to talk to one of our trainers, and they'll set you in the right direction, because you may think, something that you take over the counter is, fine. It's over the counter, it's legal, but it may contain something that doesn't go with our substance abuse policy. So,
Ryan,
and as for me, I
I have never tried a supplement in my life. I have no intention of getting to be a Hulk Hogan size at 6'6". My body's always been slender, and for me that's perfect. I just work out, naturally work out. I don't take any supplements, I don't take any over-the-counter nutritional supplements, nothing like that at all. No creatine, no weight gain, no nothing. I try to have a balanced diet. And when I'm during season, when I used to play, I never drank alcohol anyway. So I just naturally worked out. So I didn't abuse that. The only thing I ever took for myself were some ibuprofens for my knees, because of the swelling in my knees because of chronic tendonitis. But other than that, I didn't take any of the over-the-market substances that are out there today for all the athletes to use.
Let me ask the infamous question then for all three of you. Have you ever had a situation where you were really being pressured, whether it's to partake of, say, an alcoholic substance? Let's talk alcohol first. You watch on TV, you see professional athletes, and a lot of them, some of them endorse maybe a beer of some type or a wine or whatever. And there's an impression that, well, once you're a professional, you can do almost anything. We're not in the professional level, but we're on the collegiate level. Have you ever had situations where you felt pressured, maybe at an off-campus party or in some other situation where someone's saying, hey, here, have a drink, take a beer, whatever the case may be?
Not for me. I don't know about you guys, but not for me.
I think being the age we are and the environment we're put in, it's out there, we understand it, but it goes back to being responsible again. And if we understand that what we do is for the betterment of our program and for our teams, it has to be on our shoulders and take the initiative to walk away from a situation like that. And for me and myself, I don't want to put my teammates in the position that, hey, if I do partake in having a drink at a party, then I know my teammates will be affected because I won't be able to participate with them. And I think that goes along the lines with everyone on campus that, there's a lot of students out there who can be college students. But as an athlete, we have to watch what we take in our body. We have to, like Ryan said, if you eat right, you get enough sleep, and you work out, there's not too many things out there that is better for you than, just protecting your body and, understanding what's good for you.
And I second Brad's notions, because as student athletes, obviously we are, I guess, in the spotlight in regards to campus life and campus activity, and of course all the choices that we make not only affect ourselves, but it affects our teammates. And we know, we try to live, just a regular college life like anybody else, knowing, however, that we're kind of special because we are student athletes. And whether we go to parties or whatever, it all comes down to the choices that we want to make, And I know a few athletes in the past probably have made some poor choices in regards to alcoholic use. Thankfully, I've never had that happen to me, because I don't want to jeopardize my playing career or affect my team, as Brad said, in an adverse way. So I managed to stay away from that.
I've never really had any problem with the alcohol thing, since I had personal choice, don't drink anyhow, even though I am of age. I have no even hint of idea to use alcohol. I just don't really, never thought of it. So I don't really feel the pressure, just since I've always dealt with it, not even being a student athlete, just as being a person. So I don't really have it from that end, since it's not even a choice for me. I just wouldn't even think of it. However, I do see that there could be some pressure out there for a student athlete if you're hanging out at a party, but they're pretty much smart enough to take into account all the choices, like Brad said, about, you're making choice not for yourself, but you're also making that choice for your team. You're not only affecting your own well-being, you're affecting all of those that you are with on the team. So yeah, the pressure's out there, but I think most athletes are smart enough to make the right decision.
You each had a chance to glance at the policy before we started taping this segment, and what I want to talk about now is whether or not you feel the policy for what happens if something does go wrong, meaning if some student athlete partakes of a substance, whether it's nutritional supplement or whether it's alcohol, tobacco, whatever. And if my memory is correct, it's basically like a three-step situation. The first step would be being in touch with the coach and basically more or less getting the hand slapped. The second step could be something along the lines of suspension for a period of time, and then the third step would be permanent termination from the squad. Agree or disagree with it?
I feel the the process we have for punishment here is good. Obviously, it's strict. It has to be strict. If we just go along and say, well, you get a slap on the hand every time you do something wrong around here, nothing's going to be accomplished, and the progress will not be able to go forward. However, if you want to be proactive and you say there's a 3-strike policy, I think that a lot of times you have to look at a 2-strike policy. People will look at it and say, oh, I have 3 chances. I messed up the first time, and well, maybe next time I do it will be a little worse, and then I'll still have one more chance after that. If we eliminate the chances and understand that getting back to our whole discussion is responsibility and choices, I think that our administration here is doing the right thing, and it's all about having the athletes understand and really get a good concept of what our policy is about and the steps we're trying to make, and eliminate use of any products, any things that will basically cheat the system. We don't want to be competitive against another team who may be using substances of any sort, and so we have to stay inside those guidelines as well. And the stricter our policy is here, the easier it's going to be for all of our athletes.
I also feel that I think it's a pretty good policy. It seems more like we're trying to help the athlete who might be having problems, instead of just punishing them outright. That's not really going to fix the problem. Just yell at them or suspend them. That's not going to solve the problem. What this plan has in it also is the chance to counsel the athlete who's having problems, which is a really important step. Just yelling at someone, just suspending them isn't going to fix the problem at all. This gives them opportunity for the first strike to get help if it's indeed a problem. It also allows, if you look at the list of things that are banned, it's extensive, and a lot of things you would never think of, you wouldn't know, and it may be an innocent mistake. It may be something that you take every day as not an athlete, and when you become an athlete, all of a sudden the substance is banned. You didn't even know it was in there. So that first step of just being counseled and talked to is pretty important. And then for the second violation, third violation, it does step up, where again it could be an innocent mistake, and they'll try to get help again. But you got to realize you had your first mistake. You got to be a little stricter on the second one. And by the third one, you should have learned, or you should really sit down and get figured out what's going on. So by the third one, there is some problems that have been addressed and need to be taken action to. So I think it's a pretty good policy.
I agree with both Brad and Dusty. Obviously, this is something that we have thought long and hard about here at IPFW, and the implementation of this policy, I think, is a great thing. Of course, I pray and hope and would like to think that substance abuse of any kind at IPFW isn't extensive. But obviously something needs to be put into place where all the student athletes know, hey, this is what you can take, this is what you cannot take. And of course the pressures now of performing at a high level, everybody wants to be on equal playing field, and if somebody else is doing it, whether it's creatine or some other weightlifting substance that they want to get bigger, other people think, you know what, that's their advantage of being, whether it's basketball, volleyball, tennis, golf, whatever. You know what, maybe I might have to do that, and hopefully that's not the case here at IPFW, but some sort of policy needs to be implemented. It is implemented now, so obviously, hopefully we can take from it and say, you know what, athletes, here's the deal. Live your lives, but don't live it detrimentally. Just be careful about it.
Let's put the coach's hat on you, Ryan, for a minute, because granted, you played here 4 years, but now you're an assistant coach in the men's volleyball team. Being an assistant is a unique relationship to begin with. because you're the liaison between the player and the head coach. Loaded question, do you feel comfortable being in this tenuous position where you feel you can listen objectively to one of the members of the team that may have a problem and then relate it on to Arnie?
I think I could be objective. Obviously, it's a different position. It's a position of adjusting. I think when you play with a lot of people, and a lot of the guys on the men's volleyball team currently, I had the opportunity of playing with Jeff Patak being one of them. The relationships are there when I was a grad assistant with most of these guys, but it's just adjusting to my position. And I think the guys understand that and they respect me for that, and I respect them for that as well. If a situation did come up, and we had this policy in the volleyball camp, I'm sure Brad and the guys had this in the basketball community too, as well as other sports here on camp. It's an open door policy. You got a problem, talk to your teammates, talk to your team captains, come in, talk to the assistant coach, talk to the head coach. You're always welcome to discuss your problems, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is. It doesn't matter if it's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. It doesn't matter if it's a girlfriend problem, homework problem, or drug problem. And we've had that policy for as long as I can remember with head coach having involved in men's volleyball, and I'm sure Doug and everybody with the basketball team has had the same thing. But it's one of those things where the athletes are a family. And it doesn't matter if it's a brother or a sister. We're all looking out for one another. And it's a great thing to have, to be able to, respect one another and yet look out for one another. Because that's the only way we're going to be successful as a team. And it's one of those team bonding things. And we've had an open door policy in regards to that.
And on that note, I will say thank you to each of you for spending some time out of your busy schedule. Continued success to each of you. Brad, again, congratulations on hitting that 1,000-point mark. Wish you well in the future. I know you and I have talked in the past, and we'll talk again because we're going to set up another show with you and some of your fellow 4-year seniors, but that's down the road. But whatever road you do take, I know you're going to be successful. And Dustin, again, thank you for coming in, current member of the men's volleyball team, and giving us your input. And Ryan, what can I say? You bailed me out again. I appreciate it sincerely. Thanks to each of you for coming in the program and talking about the substance abuse policy here at IPFW.
Thanks, Mike.
We've been speaking with 3 members of the IPFW athletic family, as Ryan just alluded to. Dustin Sherman from the men's volleyball team, of course Ryan Perrott, my former sidekick in the telecast business, and he's now the #1 assistant to Arnie Ball on the men's volleyball team, and Brad Knoll, sort of the head coach, Doug Knoll, and they're doing real well. They won 3 in a row, 5 out of 7, I believe, and they've got the season finale this week at the University of Maine. We wish them well for that. We'll take a break and come back with more of Mastodon Spotlight in just a moment.
I propose 3 cheers for those we leave behind.
Congratulations. It's in paper now. Good job. Congratulations. Proud of you. All right. Ensign Elliott. Who's going to salute him? Guys, who gets to salute him first?
Hi, I'd like to volunteer for something in legal aid. I was an assistant district attorney in New York City. I successfully prosecuted everything from extortion to murder.
That was a TV show. You weren't really an assistant district attorney.
I guess this isn't really a badge.
That's a Screen Actors Guild card.
I can spell habeas corpus. H-A-B.
When you help your neighbors, you help your nation. Everyone can do something.
Visit us at usafreedomcorps.gov.
May he bless you and keep you. May he grant you peace. Amen. Thank you all for coming. I'll see you all next week, and please be careful going home.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We continue our discussion now of the recently passed, for lack of a better term, substance abuse policy. It was enacted on February the 3rd. And we're happy to welcome to the program Dr. David Young. Dr. Young, welcome.
Thanks.
As we just mentioned a moment ago before we started taping this segment, you are a full-time professor here at the university?
Right. I'm a professor of psychology, Department of Psychology, and I'm a clinical psychologist.
Which is something that, as John, our director, said in the control room, we need around here every now and then.
Good. I'm glad I'm here.
One of the reasons that we asked you to come is that you're also involved, and I'm going to be flat honest, the letters SCOA.
SCOA, Subcommittee on Athletics. That's it's a committee of the Senate. It's faculty members who are on this committee to help oversee the athletic program, specifically things such as schedule, student disciplinary policies, etc. It's kind of the faculty component to athletics. Because after all, our athletes are students.
That's true, and we try to emphasize that in this program as
Right.
well. Substance abuse. This policy, in our discussions with other members, other panel members we had earlier, is taken about 2 years to put together. Your thoughts on the policy in general?
I really am very proud of this policy. I think the committee and the members of the athletic department who put this together did a splendid job because it's very much in fitting with the mission of the university. And the way I see it, the mission of the university is to educate our students, to assist them, help them to make informed choices in their life and to be informed citizens. And rather than being a proscriptive policy that simply works as a police force or as a kind of a disciplinary policy, it has that mission to make the student athletes educated individuals who make responsible choices in their life. And that's the emphasis and direction of the policy.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Elliot Blumenthal and Dan Fox both mentioned is that this is not, we're going to get you, it's we want to help you.
Right. If you look at the policy, the way it begins is from before an athlete steps on the court or the field, they're given a great deal of education from the trainers and from the coaches about substances and about athletic performance and what these substances can and cannot do, and also information about how to enhance their own natural abilities. So they're receiving more than just a prescriptive, don't do that. They're being told, this is how we perform, this is how you can perform better. And they're also getting education about the various substances as well. So the description really is, of the program really is one that's educational in nature and not sort of a snooping police force who's trying to stop them from getting away with something.
Do you feel that this policy has been something that's been long due here at the university?
I think the policy, the idea of wanting to teach students about substances and to start the program with an educational basis, I think that's been going on in various ways, but now it's well organized. And all students are getting an orientation and they're getting a good, valuable education. And we also have an organization, of course, on the other end of the testing and then the disciplinary practices as well. So it's been due.
I'd like to put your psychology expertise to work, if I can. Today's athlete, whether he be high school, collegiate, or professional, the emphasis is on getting bigger, better, faster, and stronger, i.e., the possibility of taking substances, whether they're legal or whether they're not legal. How much peer pressure do you feel the student athlete of today has to reach for that substance that, whether it's legal or not, he's got to take it to make himself the best he possibly can? My
impression, I'm not a sports psychologist, but my impression is the bigger, faster, stronger mentality is there, especially at the more competitive levels. And I think we really see it in the professional levels. These people are not only highly skilled, but they are the most competitive of the competitive, and they would not be there. So I think that in that situation, that's where you're really going to have to see some big changes. I know we're talking about college here, but I think for the pros to control the problem, these substances are going to have to be banned, because they are so competitive.
We don't have too much time left in this segment, but I have two questions if I can get them both in. Recently, we aired the first part of this program, this discussion. It was immediately following the death of a professional baseball player
Right.
Down in Florida due to, and I know I mispronounce it, ephedrine. Taking taking pills that had that substance in it. What would you like to say to today's athlete? I mean, obviously you want to say watch what you take and read the ingredients, but is there an underlying message you'd like to say?
I think what I'd like to say to the athlete is really what the trainers and the coaches and the substance abuse educators on this campus have said, and that is, listen to your body, look at how it works. You can learn to maximize performance naturally, and that these substances really are very, very dangerous. I mean, there's a reason they're banned substances. It's not to prevent you from performing well. It's to keep you healthy.
And even though I know I'm out of time, I think I'm going to try to get one last question in. This is designed primarily for the student athletes here at IPFW.
Right.
I know I asked you off air, and I'll ask you on air. Any thought or possibility of this being expanded to cover the general student populace?
I think portions of it will. I think the education and the orientation is probably going to be expanded to our students as we approach the year 2004 and the dormitories open on campus. And I think the student life people and I think possibly the athletic department will be involved in doing some education, because when we have our students residing on campus, substance use is going to be an issue, and we have an obligation to do some education there.
Dr. Young, I appreciate you taking time out of
Sure.
your busy schedule to come over and talk about this, and thanks for your participation, and thanks for helping to put this whole thing together.
Thanks for having me.
We've been speaking with Dr. David Young, professor on staff here at IPFW and also involved with SCOA.
Subcommittee on Athletics.
Thank you very much.
Too many acronyms. Right?
We'll take a break and return with more of Mastodon Spotlight in just a moment.
I'm Richard Dean Anderson. On Stargate SG-1, we discovered that the Stargate device could be used to explore an endless variety of adventures. Your device for endless adventure is a good education. No matter what your goals might be, you'll go a lot farther if you don't drop out. So keep your options open. Stay in school.
Step out of the car. Open up the trunk. Check inside. What's going on? Hands on the car.
Bingo.
Got it.
Today's teenagers, the way people talk, you'd think they can't do anything right. It's just not so. We get to know over 300,000 kids a year, smart kids, who know what they want. They believe in themselves, and they believe in America. Some go straight to college. Others choose to learn leadership, discipline, courage, and commitment first with us. Today's military, making a stronger America, one good kid at a time.
A new century is coming, and with it, 1,000 questions. Will your family ever be in harm's way? Will a small town in Texas be hit with a hurricane? Will your daughter ever need a new kind of blood treatment? We have no crystal ball for the world that awaits. Just one promise. We'll be there.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Well, after hearing from some distinguished people who helped put this substance abuse policy together, and after hearing from some of the assistant coaches and some of the players, and Dr. David Young was just with us, we thought it'd only be right to conclude this discussion by having the gentleman who has to answer for all of this with us, And we're happy to welcome back to the program Athletic Director Mark Pope.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Crazy as you are, to some degree. The substance abuse program that we've spent the better part of 2 shows on, a lot of the people that have been involved are giving you the credit for getting the ball rolling, because it was one of the first things when you first came on board that you wanted to see happen. Take us back in your mind as to how you felt and how you perceived this policy and how you actually did get the ball rolling.
Well, Mike, I don't want to take any of the credit for it. I think our staff did a great job in helping me put it together. But I guess I was surprised when I got here in July of 2001 to find out that IPFW didn't have a substance abuse policy when it came to its athletic department. And the first thing I did was contact the NCAA to find out if they had something that I could use, and I quickly came up to the overarching governing position of the NCAA, which is that institutions control their own athletic departments, and the NCAA looks to the institution to make those kinds of determinations. So there is no one set pattern, there is no one set policy. Now, on the same vein, you have the NCAA doing drug testing on a random basis. The way that works is the NCAA picks out 2 sports in each season and determines that they will do random drug testing in those sports, and they notify you as to what those sports are each year. Then they'll conduct also a set of random drug testing where they may call up on a Wednesday afternoon and say, we'll be down there Thursday morning, line up your student athletes. So it's a fully random policy. And then the final part of the NCAA drug policy is that, of course, at all championships they will do drug testing. So while it's not required per se within the NCAA rules, the NCAA looks to the institution to govern itself, and the NCAA has rather stringent penalties if they do a random drug test and find out that your student athletes don't pass it. So we quickly got to work and began to devise a policy that we thought was both fair to our student athletes and fair to the department and the institution.
As I mentioned to you off air before we started taping, earlier we had a chance to speak with a couple of student athletes. And Brad Knoll, son of Doug Knoll, the head basketball coach, men's side, we asked him about, did he feel that the 3-strike rule that is initiated in this policy, if that was fair, if it was too tough or too lenient. And surprisingly, he said that he felt that was 1 strike too many. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the 3-strike policy, the fact that you are giving a student athlete not 1 but 2 chances to basically get his act together?
Well, I think that that goes to a couple of different points. The first is we searched through a lot of our fellow members' policies to see what they did. And our policy is we use a lot of components of Purdue University's in West Lafayette, and we use a lot of the components of Oakland University up in Detroit, Michigan. And both of those favored the 3 strikes and you're out policy. But embedded within the 3 strikes, of course, are the first 2, which leaves a great deal of it to coach's discretion. And I think that that's very important because no one knows the student athlete on this campus better than the coach. And to have an arbitrary standard where it's 1 time or 2 times and there's no chance for parole, but to give the coach some discretion in what he wants to do or he or she wants to do on disciplining the student athlete, I think that's a better way to handle it all the way around. The coach may decide, and we have several coaches in our staff that feel the first instance of a substance abuse is enough to warrant expulsion from the team. That's that coach's decision.
The cooperation that you've received from the people who put the policy together, and especially the coaches, do you perceive the cooperation to continue? And I guess the other follow-up question to that is, this policy is now in place. It was set up February the 3rd. Do you anticipate having to redo this every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or do you think this is a policy that will be firm for quite a period of time?
Well, I'll answer them in reverse order. This is a living document that will change, I believe, on an annual basis. I think we need to reevaluate it, determine what worked and what didn't, and move forward. I think every good policy that's written has a yearly evaluation, and so we will do that. And that mechanism is in place to have that reviewed. As far as coaches' cooperation, I was very surprised by the full cooperation that I received as we put the policy together, and how many coaches took the time to review this rather arduous and lengthy document and give me some pretty good suggestions as to what might work and what might not. The proof will be in the pudding, because when we start implementing the testing procedures, and we have student athletes that might find themselves on the wrong side of it, it'll be interesting to see how the coaches react to that. So to that extent, I'm kind of excited to see where this thing goes. But I do believe that every one of our coaches now feels that there is a policy in place, that they don't have to make up the rules as they go. This thing is set, it's established, it's up for them to enforce. It's up to us to implement, and it gives them, I think, some added leeway to make some decisions in special cases, but it also gives them the firepower to say to a student athlete, you know, you've crossed the line and we can't have that anymore.
Final question, because I know, number one, we're out of time. Number two, I know your voice is a little sore, but is there one thing that you can say to the prospective student athlete that may be watching this program, who may be thinking of coming to IPFW, or even to our existing student athletes on campus, in light of this policy? Is there one good thing, bad thing, word of warning, word of wisdom that you could say to them?
Well, I guess there's not one thing, there's two things. The first thing is, be very careful about the drugs that you do use. You would be stunned at how many are on the banned list. We certainly saw the recent example of the baseball player through a dietary supplement. Well, geez, I mean, how could that be a problem? You would be stunned at how many dietary supplements are on that banned list. So be very careful. Yes, I have a cold and I'm taking some medication for it. I'm not sure I could pass our drug test due to the medication I'm taking. And then the other point that I would make is our student athletes are bright enough and strong enough and athletic enough to succeed on their own merits. They don't need the performance-enhancing drugs. They don't need the steroids and the creatine and the things that are being touted by so many other programs. They don't need those. We'll succeed in this program on its own merits, and we'll do it the right way. That's been my step since day one, and that'll continue to be my process all the way through this.
I know you're a busy man, but thanks a lot for giving us a few minutes of your time and talking about the substance abuse policy.
Glad to do it, Mike, anytime.
We've been visiting with Athletic Director Mark Pope. We've talked about the substance abuse policy here at IPFW. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we're going to shift gears and talk baseball with head coach Billy Gernon. But that interview will take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
I wasn't going to school because I was making money stealing cars. Well, I was 10 when I first got involved with drugs. I skipped school because, you know, nobody cared.
When I first got pregnant, school was not important to me, so I dropped out.
Well, if I don't finish school, then I can't go to college. I mean, that's the whole point of what I want to do with my life.
I still need to go to school to make it for myself.
I think I'm happier now. I know I'm happier now.
Movie star heroes get to make some pretty amazing saves. Hi, I'm Kelly Hu for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. I'm here to tell you about an easy way to be a hero in real life. Keep a friend who's been drinking from getting behind the wheel. Even if they've only had one or two, they're more likely to cause a crash and injure or even kill someone. So take their keys, call a cab, or drive them home. Remember, friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Kids, here's my favorite animal. Strong, intelligent, ethical, dependable, compassionate, and patriotic. By the way, where's John?
Intelligent, strong, ethical, dependable, compassionate, and patriotic.
When you help your neighbors, you help your nation. Everyone can do something.
Visit us at usafreedomcorps.gov.
When I was senator, I did a lot of
After that, I was able to orbit the Earth in a great big rocket ship.
All over America, people are taking the National Radon Test. Have you?
You put me on the spot!
True or false? Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer.
True. I'd say false.
No, it's true.
That's something new to me.
The Office of the Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested for radon.
False.
It's true.
True? So it's bad. We should get our house tested. Sure, I'm gonna call it.
1-800-SOS-RADON. How can you not call?
1-800-SOS-RADON.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We thank everyone for their participation in the substance abuse program. Now it's time to shift gears, and we're going to turn our attention to the great American pastime, baseball. With us to talk about finally getting a season underway is head coach Billy Gernon. Welcome back.
Good to be back, finally.
Finally.
Yeah.
You lost 7 games due to Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Talk about that, and we finally got the season underway, but you had to travel a fur piece to do it.
Yeah, we did. Opening series at Oral Roberts in Tulsa was canceled. Threat of rain, 4 to 5, 6 inches type threat, 14-hour bus ride. We elected not to take that gamble because of the cost to make the trip. And then the following weekend, Tennessee Tech in Cookeville, Tennessee was canceled due to saturated fields. The threat of snow, and softball was canceled there as well. They had tournaments. So, and then this past weekend was supposed to be at Evansville at the Governor's Cup with all the Division I teams in the state of Indiana, and that was canceled because of snow. They had 5 inches. So we scrambled and got some games put together, believe it or not, in Nashville, Tennessee. Opened up our season on Friday versus Cumberland, which is an NAIA school, always a gamble to play an NAIA school, and they were ranked 12th in the nation. Solid program, a lot of money down there. Woody Hunt's the coach, been there 25 years. We dropped that game 10-8, Mike. Played well, got all of our freshmen in the game. Everybody got in at bat. We used 3 different pitchers, a sophomore and 2 freshmen. So we got to see some things that we wanted. Turned around the next morning, played Indiana State. Kellen Marshall started. We were up 3-1 in the third, and then we proceeded to make 7 errors from that point to the end of the game, and you can imagine that the outcome wasn't what you want. Lost 13-3. Indiana State's power ranking is 95 out of 287. They were solid. Turned around that night, played at Vanderbilt University, probably one of the nicer fields that I've been on as a coach, under the lights, and Jason Horvath, along with his teammates, beat Miami of Ohio 8-5, a MAC school, one of the bigger wins for me as a coach. So that was thrilling experience. So we're 1-2 right now.
How frustrating was it, not only for you and your staff, but for the players to be working all winter indoors,
can't explain
getting
what
tired of each other, and then to have 3 weekends in a row wiped out?
Tennessee Tech, where the guys were on the bus eating a sandwich. And I got a phone call on myself from their coach just saying, you just no way to come down. So I had to get on the bus, and take them off the bus, and tell them we were going to go inside and practice. I'm going to tell you, this has been a grind. But, you know, Nashville, Tennessee, down there in Cumberland, their coach said this is the worst winter that Nashville's had in 25 years. So it's a Midwest scattering. It's not just Indiana. I know IU's coach in Bloomington, who I played for and coached for and respect a lot, said that this is the worst winter that he's had since he's been there in 20-plus years. So it's been a grind for a lot of schools, but we hopefully used it to benefit from, and it's challenged our guys mentally, and it's challenged us to have that good energy in practice, knowing that we were going to come back in and do things inside, which are difficult in baseball. There's only so many things you can do. So we felt pretty good about what we saw this weekend, considering that we had not been outside yet. And Cumberland had already played 10 games when we played them. So Indiana State had only played 1 as we did, and Miami of Ohio only played a couple. So the table was a little more balanced in that situation.
I got to ask you, because we've talked in prior programs and prior seasons, when you went down there to Nashville, did you use aluminum bats or wooden bats?
We're all aluminum. We're all aluminum. Division I is. The Great Lakes Valley Conference in D2 is one of the 2 or 3 conferences in the nation that uses wood bats. So that's over. We do hit wood in the off season to help, you know, central in on the sweet spot part of the bat, but it's used as a tool and not as a weapon in a game.
Let's briefly talk about some of your key components this year. Obviously, Jason Horvath is the ace of your staff, and he gained great recognition last year. Not only pitching for you, but pitching some summer ball.
Yeah, the stable is full of thoroughbreds as far as pitching goes, but he would be the Seattle Slew or the Secretariat of the barn, so to speak. And he's the guy that we had lost 2 straight, and we put him on the field against a MAC team. And you know, Mike, we won convincingly. We started 6 freshmen, including 1 behind the plate, and Jason went 7 innings, struck out 10. Walked 1 and gave up 6 hits with 2 runs in 7 complete innings, and that's his first day out of the gym in front of about 25 scouts. Their reports were hit and miss. Some of them loved him, some of them, you know, whatever. But first day out of the box, you know, he's not going to have as much velocity as he's going to as he gets down the stretch, just like a shooter's touch is going to develop throughout the season and so forth. But for him to come out and battle like he did, and for us to sustain the lead the entire game against a MAC school as quality as Miami of Ohio was big for our program. And as one of our freshmen barked out at the end of the game to our team, this has just kind of raised the bar for what we should expect from each other. So, having gone 1-2, it's ironic how optimistic and positive I felt about the 3 games that we played.
Well, you finally get a chance now, hopefully, if Mother Nature cooperates. You're going to take off later this week, head down to Florida and make a small stop, I believe, is it Saturday, at Thomas?
Well, we've backed that up a day. Because of the weather, we still have not had an outside practice. So my friend Mike Lee's the coach down there. It's an NAIA school, and it's a good stop. It breaks that trip for us. It's in southern Georgia. It's only supposed to be 70. And we'll play them on Friday night under the lights, and then Saturday we're going to utilize that day to practice, get ground ball work, base running, fly ball work, communication type things that we haven't been able to do inside. Leave from there to go to Bradenton, where we'll spend the next 7 days, and we'll open up that week with Harvard University on Sunday night at 7 o'clock, and Horvath will start that game. Through the week we play Lehigh, we play St. Francis out of Pennsylvania, we play Bucknell, Northern Iowa, doubleheader versus Rhode Island and Yale. A buddy of mine says, I hope you don't have any spelling contests while you're down there, with Yale and Harvard on there. So we might not even do well against the other schools, but definitely not against the Ivy League guys.
Well, we're almost out of time, unfortunately, but congratulations on at least getting the season underway.
Good to stop in and just throw a little appetizer out on the table, and hopefully next time you and I get together we'll have some good news to share about the Florida trip.
We're hoping so.
Absolutely.
Have a good trip.
Thanks.
Billy Gernon has been our guest, the head baseball coach here at IPFW with, as he says, an appetizer. Baseball season finally underway, and we wish him well on their trip to Florida. That's basically it for this week's program. Again, thanks to everyone who appeared. Head coach Billy Gernon, athletic director Mark Pope, Dr. David Young, our 3 women who came back from 2 weeks ago, Judy Tillapaw, Courtney Reed, and Chris Kuznar, assistant men's volleyball coach Ryan Peratt, our student athletes Brad Knoll and Dustin Sherman. Thank them all for their participation in the substance abuse program. And again, as always, thanks to you, the viewer. Thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. Big weekend. Billy's team going down to Florida. Keith Fisher's softball team going down to Florida. Eric Burns' men's and women's tennis teams going down to Hilton Head, South Carolina. But Ernie Ball's volleyball team is here. Friday night against Clark College, 7 o'clock. Saturday night against Ohio State, 7 o'clock. If you can't make it here to the Gates Center, tune into College 56 Sports. Kelly Hartley and I will be here to call the action on that one. Big matches for the Volleydons. They need to get back on track if they hope to advance in the MIVA and possibly the Final Four down the road. That's it again. Thanks for tuning in. We invite you to come back again next week. And until next week, this is Mike Maas saying have a great week and go Dons.